There'll be no silence here. I'm getting shtick already, and we haven't even hit go live. And there we go. Hopefully it's up and running and in one piece. What is the crack, YouTubers? If this is in fact actually streaming now, I am your host Skarnir. Welcome to another hobby hangout. And this week we have the one, the only Nick from Grayprimer.
Hello,
Uh,
hello.
I hope you can hear us all well. If you can't hear us, throw a comment into the comment section. But apparently it's telling me everything's working properly. And we'll be cracking on. So, yeah, what's the story, Nick? But back onto the channel. It's good to have you on
How
again,
are
man.
you?
You're keeping
Hey,
yourself
I was
busy.
like a chimpanzee there. I loaded up the video in a separate window and I was completely distracted by myself waving. So, yeah, I apologize for my momentary lapse there.
You
Um,
caught yourself in your own gaze, did you? You were
I
fascinated.
really do. I was like,
It's like, gotcha.
whoa. Um,
Who's this
but
chap
yeah,
here?
it's going well. I have been doing. I'm from Grayprimer, which is a weekly channel that's mostly about it's pretty much all miniatures. Sometimes I do critters. Um, it got its name because I never paint anything beyond the Grayprimer. That is me. I've been doing mostly Tau and Guard all month, and I will be glad to have a break.
Tau Angard. Jesus. Well, look, you're in good company here. If you're uncharacteristically, I've actually been putting paint on miniatures. I have a couple of vehicles for BattleTech that were donated to me by a friend. Cheers for that, Brian. And the main bulk of what I'm going to be doing tonight is some Gundam kits. So I'm throwing a bit of wash on these boys so I can get them to the same standard as some of these other BattleTech vehicles. I'm enjoying. It's very strange. Have you painted much small scale stuff yourself, Nick? I'm finding it's a very different experience. I've been enjoying it.
Not really. I mean, I'd say that I grade prime everything, but I have painted in the past, and I haven't done a lot of smaller scale. I imagine it's less forgiving. Thousand
It's
stuff has
it,
it.
it I've found like the difference between like painting smaller scale vehicles and the likes of maybe it's because I play orcs and you're used to like 30 in a mob and you've done it, you've built a few orc vehicles yourself, and the
Sure.
conversion aspect of it tends to be a bit more fun for me. But I've always found the painting of large units of orcs or orcs in general to be, it's never been me forte really. It's always been a bit of a chore. But I'm finding with these small scale miniatures, it's like you reach certain goals at a much different rate. Like when you go to put the base colors on, like I'm doing greens. I think I painted these guys up in a US olive drab, and I've done a couple of coats, a couple of bits and pieces I need to still get. But the coverage over the force that you need, I suppose it ties into, you don't need as much of a force to play the game. Like being
Sure.
able to cover it much at a much quicker pace. It surprised me, I think, is the thing that's got
Yeah.
me. And I'm like, oh look, I've a lot of progress done in like an hour. And
Hmm.
you know that sort of aspect of it has kind of caught me by surprise. Um,
I suppose with going into those military greens, should be into like the what's the range in? Would be like the Vallejos or a lot
yeah,
of like
I've gone
you would have those
into
high and low they would have your highlights, your shading, and all of that stuff in the military, proper military colors.
I've gone for some of the Vallejo model color stuff, and so I'm literally just doing like a US olive drab and a model wash of dark green so far. I haven't decided if I'm going to get super fancy. I'm trying to keep them generic. Instead of assigning
Yeah,
them to a faction, I'm like, oh, generic planetary defense force. They can be, they're olive drab. They can be put in anywhere. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's sort of cheating to a certain extent. But I have some stuff to build tonight. I got a couple of Gundam kits. You're partially to blame. You reminded me that I had Gundam kits to build, so I bought these during the week just for this stream. We have a super deformed like camphor, and then I have a Zaku, old school Shara Zaku. So I'll put the wash on the guys, and then I'll get these built up. These are only 10 quid a pop. They're not bad actually. Bought them down in
Nuts.
Dublin
Yeah.
City Comics there on Capel Street. That's where I frequent for all my Gundam needs. And I'm
Yeah,
not.
there are certain brands out there where tenner get you.
Yeah, you get more bang for your buck, depending on the individual brands. It really does. Are you going to be working on yourself?
I am building. Let me up here. So the Hydra, but I'm gonna go with the Wyvern variant. So it's
Ah,
a nice bit of kit. Yeah. This is the very last part of the Astra Militarum Imperial Guard battle for.
right.
They saved the very best to last.
Wyvern.
I've actually got the Chimera here.
Oh, swank.
See that one? So it's got the nice dozer blade. I give it a bit of weathering, a bit of damage. Like sort of these weapons at the back pointing off like little hedgehog spines. And the dude up top is nicely detailed as well. Don't know
Yeah, yeah. We can catch it. Anti-aircraft las guns for the win. I like it.
yeah. I mean, that was a really nice kit to build. My first ever Chimera. And I can see why it's that sort of base for a lot of variants. I do a lot of kit bashing with that little guy.
Some really nice conversions as well when orc players get their hands on chimeras. I've
Oh,
seen some
oh
very
yeah.
interesting builds. It's yeah, it's a fan favorite, all right. Not just with the Imperials, but you know, it's one of the vehicles that tends to get looted quite a bit. The Chimera and even the Rus as well. I have a question for you. What do you do with all it? Because you go through like truckloads of boxes of stuff and you build it up. I'm like, what's he do with them all? He must have a container full at this stage. Like,
So this is something that I do for mostly for other people. I do buy my own stuff. I do buy that from time to time, but I tend to set like huge boxes filled for painters and gamers. Um, they people that send me stuff hate building, love painting and gaming. They just ship it to me. I film it, unbox it, build it, package it back up, and ship it back to them.
nice, win-win. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I don't really have like massive stocks or anything behind me. I'm so lying because I get all my own stuff as well.
ah, of course, it's inevitable. I've been resisting that temptation when it comes to BattleTech vehicles. I've been enjoying painting up the ones I have so much. I started pricing up more of them, and it's I'm creating a shopping list that's like 200 quid or whatever, and I'm going. Isn't there like wave two of the Kickstarter coming soon enough? I really should probably hold off on this and just wait. Fighting the temptation to spend coin. It's like you've stuff coming. Stop. I'm not used to Kickstarter. You see.
Yeah,
So
I think that's a part of like this hobby has just got so many components to it. Like for some people, it's just they just read lore, and that's all they ever get to. They've never bought a mini. They've never the lore. Others, it's like the building. Others, it's painting, for bashing. And then I definitely think there's a component to the hobby which is buying, stuff like our backing characters. Um, I think it's another valid part of the hobby. It's just emulating things and filling out wish lists, shopping carts.
oh, definitely, retail therapy is a large aspect of it. Most
Oh
definitely.
yeah.
There's no denying it there. There really isn't. It's like I find it hard on my daily commute to not spend money in model shops that I walk past. And it's yeah, it's you just can't help yourself now that retail stores have kind of opened up here and you can pop in person now. I think that only started this week. You can pop in person and have a look and grab something. You know what I mean? I'm finding like I'm trying to give myself excuses not to buy stuff because I go past a model shop and I buy myself a bag of like clump foliage clusters like green, and I show it to the missus, and she just sees a green bag like this, and she's like, what what did you
That's a list.
yeah what do you have here? What's this? Because it looks like something else from the wrong angle, shall we say? And
You carry that in the bus.
yeah, well, yeah, in a bag, obviously, in a plastic bag. I carried it on the bus, but I just it's like no, I've too much already. It's like, oh, that looks nice, I might get that kit, and it's like, yeah, but you have these other 2 or 3 kits still laying about. It's like, stop buying stuff.
So it's I mean it's something I'm very passionate about is supporting sort of local retailers and I So I probably shared it with you. Database that I put together of all the Ireland-based hobby stores, cross-referenced brand. Probably Mark or have that. I know that there they might be able to share that because it's hand buying in Ireland. Last week I updated it to show all the ones who have didn't put in like opening hours or guesses. It's an easy find online.
You posted in the gaming community, wasn't it? Ireland's gaming community, I think.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did I lose connection there, or you still got me?
I've got you. You're coming in and out a little bit, but we still
Okay.
got you. Google Documents here. I'll see if I can share this.
Oh.
Away with you and your Facebook links. So you've done up a full spreadsheet of it. Yeah, no, I was paying attention to I was paying attention to it because I thought it was genius. And do you ever see when someone does something and it's like, why hasn't somebody done this before? You know, it's
the only reason I did it was because of Brexit. Because as soon as we went into the new year, we were getting trees for deliveries, and I know that the likes of Goblin Gaming, Element, and Freelance are incredibly popular in Ireland. It's additional risk of the cost. I thought, well, it's probably a good time to inventory what we've got locally. That turned out to be a ton of shops.
Yeah. There's quite a bit, surprisingly.
So it's been good because I've been kind of in constant contact with a lot of those retailers in that list, and they've been sending me updates. But I got advanced sneaky peek at what's coming at Airsoft Era out in Dundalk. I got that yesterday. I got to visit the shop, see the work they've been doing, hobby side of things. Which I think is called Hobby Era, but it is looking fantastic. Like the range of weathering stuff from AK. They've got a ton of brands that we haven't really seen much of here, which is like Scale 75, like Paint, Green Stuff World, Geek Gaming. So they've got a bunch of stuff, and I think they're planning next.
You're dropping in and out first there a little bit, but I think we're getting the gist of what you're saying. You still hear us? No, it's not. We'll blame the internet fairies. It's not your fault. Don't worry.
I was trying to. Is that any better?
We can hear you now. Yeah. It's just it goes in and out
Cool.
every now and then. I don't think it's anything you can do yourself.
I was trying to keep an eye on the chat as well, and I think that's why it was bandwidth. So I'm going to leave the chat to you.
Yes. Speaking of chat, we'll see who's dropped in. We have quite a few heads. We've Mark. We've Lorcan is here as well. We've got Essex Boys, Gita Hyper Sapiens in, Orc Stuff's here. We have Sci-Fi's popped in to say hello as well. What's the crack? Dave's here. The Git Man. Solvent Abuse is here as well. Evening Dread. How are you doing? Quite a lot of the usuals. Mostly Zen. That's Tom. For them already painted nicely. Another 30 are painted okay. You're talking about it. That's quite the painting challenge. Yeah, and what were we saying? Thomas saying, yeah, I never realised I've only painted 10 myself, but I assembled 50 painting. Didn't realise there's another 100 or so elsewhere. You must be talking about orcs. They do tend to crop up on you. It tends to happen.
I think they were talking about the epic scale orcs.
Epic scale orcs. I've got so much to paint. Didn't realise I've counted all my minis and I have 180 boys in various boxes. Tom, is that 180 epic scale boys or standard scale boys? I do have some epic scale orc stuff as well. I got it off of a friend. It's a little bit dusty there, but it's not it's actually not too far off the Battletech stuff. There you go. You could, I suppose.
Look at us old heads talking about epic.
I know. I never got into epic back in the day. What about yourself?
I mean, it was. I think I felt like I was missing out. It didn't feel like I was that I had 10 rhinos. It felt like I had 10 toys of rhinos, if that isn't completely meta. I'd much rather have the bigger versions than the little versions that I was thought them. Just thought it was, I don't know.
Yeah, I get you. Now I understand that train of thought, all right. I suppose when there's, especially when you're younger, you're like, oh yeah, bigger is always better. It seems to be, but I think I've started to appreciate games that don't take up as much physical space as I've gotten older. I'm like,
Okay.
yeah, it's like, oh, I
Like sort
see.
of skirmish stuff.
Um, Not so much skirmish. I haven't really dabbled with. I'm just enjoying BattleTech. I think is what
Mhm.
my thing is at the moment. But I'm starting to realize that with Gundam kits as well. I'm like, all right, I enjoy building these, but it's like, but what do I do with them afterwards? So I'm looking to put up a
Yeah.
couple of shelves maybe, and it's like, to, either I start giving them away or giving them to people or finding things to do with them, or I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Maybe I'll make a couple of dioramas or something like that and start chopping limbs off and re-gluing them and gluing such. Uh, but but I enjoy building them. I like that aspect of it. I enjoy building the Gundam kits, and painting them isn't a prerequisite. But
Yeah.
the technology level on the plastics is just amazing. It really is.
Yeah, it's I mean, I know I did that video, the one you were talking about earlier, the one that's same different path, but I was blown away by the multicolor plastic on shoes,
Oh
but
yeah.
also the no glue construction. Um, the instructions are follow. Just it's a different level completely.
It is. It's like it's kind of similar building them, but it's also different. So it's like, oh yeah, your mindset. Or I found that my mindset, like making miniatures, it's like, oh yeah, constructing miniatures. That's I'm used to constructing miniatures, but this whole posable aspect of them, I was like, okay, so I'm building a kit, but I end up with something that's akin to an action figure at the end of it, and that was a bit weird for me. You know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
but it was fun. So I'm gonna crack on and build our camphor kit here. It's very small. It's only about 3 or 4 sprues. This was only a tenner. And these are our instructions. The languagey parts are in Japanese because I do believe it's imported. And we'll go from there. I think they're all imported, aren't they? They're all made in Japan, all the kits.
Uh, as far as I know, I think some of them are Japanese, but they outsource some manufacturer to, or some manufacturers to China. Because I was looking into the different Japanese manufacturers of them, so I think most of them are designed in Japan, but
Mm.
occasionally they will be manufactured in.
They outsource manufacture to China. Well, that's nothing new. I think quite a lot of
Yeah, makes
models and
practical.
gaming manufacturers do the same thing. But the BattleTech Kickstarter being a prime example, they're all designed, but they're all made in China.
Yeah,
And of course, just waiting for stuff to be shipped as it is. It's not too bad, actually.
I think it's the disconnect for me with Gundam is that I just can't get as easy as I was able to get into like say Warhammer lore. Um, I don't know why that is. I didn't grow. I didn't come up on like Gundam cartoons. It wasn't part of my childhood or anything. And I think there's just I watch them and it's chaos to in space, lots of missiles. But maybe I'm just watching the wrong shows. Morgan will probably send me 50 links to this.
Yeah, this is it. No, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm not really into the cartoon aspect of it. I just saw that it's like, oh, these kits are interesting. I saw that there was like a sale going on for the are these spring loaded? This would be cool if they were spring loaded. There was a sale. There are springs in it. Sweet. I saw there was
The
sale.
one for a tenner?
Yeah, it has little springs. You can shoot the missiles. This is
Ah,
hilarious. Ickle wickle springs. They're tiny, man.
they've got a hilarious icon showing somebody getting one of them to the eye and with like a cross through it. Don't do that.
No, shooting in eyes. Maybe that's what all of this warning in Japanese is. Maybe there's a don't point at eyeballs. I don't see any non-eyeball pointing warning signs, but there's a lot. There's a lot of attention. So potentially there is, but I can't read it. So that, therefore it doesn't count. That's how that works, right?
It's exactly how. It's like when they have like poison and fire written on the side of the Tamiya glues, but it's covered by like a barcode. It means it's no longer fiery or poisonous. You're protected. Speaking of glues, check this out. This is just crazy. So it acts like Tamiya, extra thin, but it's
citrus
scented.
Ah.
So when you open it in like a house with other people or with pets around, or if you accidentally spill it, it does not send everyone to the moon. It, everything just smells
into low orbit.
Fresh. I mean, it still has like "you're gonna die" icons on the side of it, but it smells nice.
Well, yeah, at least you'll die with a pleasant smell, or your corpse will smell reasonable when they get it to the morgue, you know?
He's so citrus fresh.
Wow, how did he do it? We have... Look, I say most Gundam kits are manufactured in Japan. You can tour the factory. That's true. And they all wear, like, Gundam uniforms. And depending on their, like, position in the company, they have ranks and they wear their little rankings. It's hilarious, man. I've seen videos on it. I'd love to go there one day.
That's amazing.
Sid, the drunken orc, is saying, I'm drastically running out of room. The kids are one unmade bed from being on the street. In regards to space for the hobby, Sid made himself a man cave and then got into wargaming, and it's you know, things have been migrating out of the man cave. Space is slowly over time being taken up by wargaming bits and pieces. So, you know, those kids need to book up their ways. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, what's the earliest they can leave the house? Is it like 8 or something, or is it?
You never know. You never know.
You definitely have that calendar being marked on the wall.
It's the big X, you know, D-Day. What's this, Dad? Why is this marked here? It's like, you'll find out. I don't want to ruin the surprise. Yeah.
Start saving. You're going to need it.
Yeah, you better get that deposit together, that newspaper around, you know what I mean? That's your lifeline there, son. You better sort it out.
Did I tell you I ordered one of the log cabins for the garden?
Oh, look at you.
I know, fancy, huh? It's well, I ordered it, but with them having to down tools for about it's who knows when it'll arrive, but currently I'm in a converted ship full of holes and wind blows in the open door and stuff, and this is going to be a much fancier, safer and drier space for working in.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Do you plan on is it just going to be a hobby bunker, or do you plan on running games there, or, you know, what's your future plans? Do you plan on doing battle reports or anything on your channel eventually, or intro and stuff?
It'll give me a lot more space. So it means I can do sort of up-down shooting as well, and, you know, actually have like a dedicated table out with and get some different stuff going. Because currently, I film in house that even if I'm filming like to camera stuff, the intros, if I want to then shoot the unboxing, I have to reset the whole space. Like we're talking leaning stuff against walls, moving the lights. It's a whole thing like to. Definitely couldn't get another person in. That's how much space is optimized. But the log cabin will just give me that full flexibility to leave stuff out. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited for you, man. It sounds fun. Like, I definitely feel your pain when it's like, I don't do many box opening videos, but that's because it requires fold out tables being folded out and furniture being moved away from the, you know, the only decently blank wall in the house, and you know what I mean, there's a lot of rigmarole. I'm already like planning ahead for the second wave Kickstarter box opening. I'm like, right, I'm gonna need these lights here, I'm gonna need this extra extension cable to run the lights and the camera, and I need to get a tripod, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of hoops that need to be jumped through.
The pain. As my been better since I switched off the second window there?
Majority of the time, yeah. It comes in and out now and then, but majority of the time it seems to be fine.
Nothing on chat?
They are asking, Lorcan, do you allow paint on plastic with Lincoln Wright? Fantastic kit building and painting channel. The guy is a MAK master builder. MAK. He showed this glue in a recent video that's good for gap filling, and it's the same bottle as the Tamiya and AK glue. Oh, he's asking, do you know paint on plastic? It's probably a question for you, Nick. Paint on plastic? Do you watch a YouTuber?
Hey. Yeah, I think if there was like a channel where they were, I probably wouldn't watch it because I would just targeted that they were doing all this fancy stuff with color. I was stuck in my. No, but I'll check it out after for sure.
Definitely.
What's MAK?
He's an MA.K master builder. I don't know what an MA.K master builder. He showed this glue. Tamiya and AK glue. Gubbins Gate was asking, is this an ST camphor kit? Yeah. It's that bad boy there. I got him in the local comic book store. And we're giving him a build. If you don't know, the MA.K is Google. Or what it is, Google it and prepare to spend a lot of money on awesome kits. Kits of what though? just tell us, Lorcan. Put us out of our misery.
No, Lorcan, I've done this. No hope that I'm going to follow that link.
Right. Okay. MA.K.
Just costs.
I don't know. I'm looking at like high grade Zaku kits, or perfect grade, the ones that are like 90 quid or whatever, and have a skeleton and all these like extra panels and flaps, and I'm like, oh yeah, dirty. They look amazing. Because I'm more of a builder myself. I like building kits. Yeah. I mean, like, I can paint, but that's not my enjoyment of making stuff with the hobby. It's making things. My enjoyment is making things. I think it ties back to Lego was my go-to as a kid. You know what I mean? So it was always Lego for birthdays, Christmases, and any other opportunity I got. So I kind of, it's my chill zone sort of building things. I'd happily chill out. Or even the Lego kits. I've done a couple of the Star Wars helmet builds. The missus got me some for Christmas, and I did them there. And
the Stormtrooper looked amazing.
Oh, they're cracking, man. They're absolutely cracking kits. I also need a shelf for them. And I'll be getting a few of them for my birthday, apparently, so I've been told. So that'll be a good crack.
Yes, Lego was something I was into massively as an adult when I had not really covered Warhammer or miniature building. But I used to get a lot of the architectural kits, and a lot of they do some really cool cars, like the Volkswagen Beetle. What else do I have? The Mini Cooper as well. That was pretty amazing. But when I rediscovered Warhammer, it was the end of Lego. I haven't been back since. But they've got.
I don't know. It's I think there's a lot of crossover with a lot of these things. Like, I wasn't into Gundam until fairly recently, but I think that's partly Lorcan and Mark's fault, because I got into BattleTech, and then there seems to be a lot of mecha crossover.
Yeah, it's the gateway drug to Gundam, I think.
Well, it depends. Like, some of the
how they get you.
I've tried to watch some of the series and I haven't been impressed. I watched the. What did I watch? There's one on Netflix that was called Unicorn or something like that, and I was like, I watched it, but I was like, I don't, you know what I mean? I didn't really interest me too much. I'm like, yeah, it's all right, but it's not really my cup of tea. And then I watched the Origin series, which I really liked. So I think it really does depend on which series you watch, whether you'll enjoy it or not.
Yeah, I think I watched Orphan something or other. Was that the Unicorn one, or was that a different one?
Here, look. why did
You
people?
know, it was one that Lorcan recommended, and Mark recommended, and I sat down and watched most of it, and I was just like, yeah, that was all right. Um, but I'm probably missing the subtlety of why it was awesome.
Hmm.
And I just thought it was okay.
Yeah, I think it just depends. But I when I was watching the series I watched, I liked the politics and assassination attempts and
Mm.
the fleet movements and that type of thing. I like that.
Yeah.
Iron-blooded orphans in caps. My God, Lorcan, behave yourself.
Yeah, that was it.
Mark was saying, just watch Origins. Never mind.
I think it's hard for them as well because they love it so much, and they have such sort of complex opinions about it that have been developed over years. That for noobs like us coming into it, it's like, it's a cool robot. It's like it's not a robot, and so we're off to a bad start in the conversation. But
It's but we have familiar stomping grounds that we're used to as well. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like
I want to get you back onto the orc path. That's a
well, yeah, this is it. Talk to me about orcs, and it'll be the tides will turn at that stage. These are interesting kits, to say the least, when it comes to Gundam builds. I've found that they have different priorities, like the snips, because the Gundam builders, a lot of them, well, I don't know if a lot of them, but my perception is that a lot of people don't actually paint them, so they want to avoid these sort of stress on the plastic when they're clipping the parts out at the scullers. Whereas I found that coming from like Tabletop Wargamer, we're not too bothered about that as long as the surface texture is fine, because you're going to paint over it. So it's interesting to see the similarities, but also the differences between them. You know what I mean? Because they want slightly different end results, but there's a lot of crossover.
yeah. I think a lot of the times when we flip the hard plastics for that are intended to be, leave a lot of bruising and scarring on this. A plastic goes white. It's like, yeah, as long as it's smooth, it does. But for Gundam builders, that's its finished color.
Yeah,
Get rid of the scarring.
it's weird. Like it is odd having stuff in multiple plastics, and then it's like, yeah, it's you can leave it the way it is. And I've been messing around with some of the Gundam like felt tip, the markers that they have, the Gundam markers for just like coloring in the panel line.
Cool, yeah.
So you leave it in as it's plastic, and then you're gonna come back in and mess around with the panel line for it, and it's like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? It's something different, but it's also there's some potential there for maybe that could be brought over into tabletop wargaming. Where I could see if you were doing metallics and you didn't want to shade the whole thing, you could use it as a method of maybe kind of like cell shading a little bit, where you're literally going in, or instead of doing washes, maybe, you know what I mean? There could be uses for it. I'm sure.
Yeah, totally. Especially if you're using it because you're going to be viewing it from that sort of 2 to 3. So it's kind of like the oil paint makeup for being on stage that has to be able to be read by the audience. So if pictures, like if you're viewing them, having them heavily panel lined, like cell shaded, it'll make them look fantastic. It'll just look weird up close.
Yeah, it's all about like what resolution sort of you want to paint them to, and I keep saying this to people as well.
Sure.
Especially with armies, it tends to be the sum of the parts. Like it looks impressive from 2.5, 3 feet away, because like even if you're taking into account the height of the gaming table, it's going to be somewhere around your waist height. So even like the distance from your eye down onto the table, you're going to be. It's not very common for people to pick your miniatures up and get them super close and have a close-up view of them. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but the majority of the time they're viewed from a distance.
I think it'd be different if you're playing a very small plane, like Kill, Blood Bowl, or Warcry, or other Skarnir game. That'd be different because you're dealing with a game, a space that it could only be like 1 foot by. Probably gonna be that stuff, and I think then you would notice the sketchy paint jobs.
I think so, but it's sort of a different beast as well at that sort of scale, because you're you're not just going to build them all bog standard. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from building them all bog standard if you want to, but you know what I mean? You can sort of go to town a bit more and give your miniatures a bit more character. Whereas if it was just like if I did a unit of commandos, if I did a commando kill team, I'd put a different amount of effort into them than if it was just one unit out of maybe three in a 40k army. You know what I mean? There's a difference between doing 8 dudes and having to paint up 45 of them. The way you're going to build them, the way you're going to set them up, the amount of detail you're going to put into each individual miniature, it's going to be different. You know, because they get lost in the crowd, kind of.
Like, there are really talented paint, very little paint. They just sort of use the likes of the World Intensity inks, or they use those contrast paint. And they get these amazing paint effects just by being painters using a handful of paint. I admire them. The way I could replicate what they do.
Well, I think that's the thing. It's always like people asking renowned artists, you know, what paintbrushes did he use, and half the time people are saying, "Oh, you know, it's not the tool as such or the paints that they use. It's just how they apply it, and the skill in applying it. You know what I mean? That sort of thing, and their approach."
100%. I mean, I was talking to an Canadian friend of mine who was at a training day that Sam Lenz ran. Sam Lenz is like a golden diesel brush winner, like really. Sam Lenz tours the North America teaching new painters how to do different techniques. This guy appears in with these nasty looking craft brushes that he had got on the way over. I think it was like $1 for 5, and that's what he taught them. Most basic brushes, basic synthetic brushes, but it was the technique. And he was like really throwing the paint on in those sort of base color stages. And then it was after that he got more and more precise and started to talk more and more about where the light was coming from and what the different gradients would be of highlight and things like that. And what he produced at the end, you just wouldn't believe. A craft cost a fraction of $1.
And this is it. Like I've talked to some heavy metal painters, and they've like never washed their brushes. There's this whole concept of brush soap to them. They're like, what? You know what I mean? It just depends on the individual artist and what brushes they prefer, and what tools they use for the job. It is interesting to see that it's not always what tends to happen with a lot of hobbies, where it's like, oh, the most expensive thing, you know. Because I've been looking at getting a fishing rod, because I've never been fishing, and I've always wanted to at least try it out. And you know, some people are saying to me, "Oh, you know, 600 quid will get you a good setup and whatever else." And I'm like, no, I'm not spending that much. You know, I've gone into a fishing store in town, and you know, the one behind the counter is like, "Ah, yeah, you know, 90 quid, that'll get you started." You know what I mean? I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. I want to dabble. I don't want to fall down the rabbit hole. I already have hobbies for falling down the rabbit hole. I don't need any more. I just want something I can chill out to.
Yeah, and you see, sort of, I mean, like if you were getting into guitar, you can go out and buy $2.5 grand worth of Gibson Les Paul. You're not going to be able to play like Slash. You could do that, and you would have one of the best guitars in the world. You could go and buy it, but it's better, I think, just to make all your mistakes on something that at the end of the day is going to do the job, but it wouldn't break your heart if you scratch it.
Yeah, it's the same with driving. Like, if you're learning to drive, you don't buy your brand spanking new car to learn to drive in. You buy a second-hand, half-decent car that you don't mind if you scratch it or dent it, or, you know, clip the curb with it and scratch the alloys, or, you know, if it even does. You know what I mean? You get something you can knock about a bit. And then if you want, you go on from there. Right, so I think these are holders for like rockets and stuff. We'll go back to the comments section since we've been ignoring it a fair bit.
And I can't see it, so it's not me ignoring
So,
it.
Mark was saying that Lorcan beat him to it, and he said Iron-Blooded Orphans. I tried watching that, I think. I wasn't too sure. Is that the one on Netflix?
Netflix, I think.
Where they're in like training Gundams or whatever? I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's it.
Gubbins Git was saying Zeta Gundam is really upbeat show. I recommend it. All right, we'll put that onto watch list.
Okay.
Mostly Sen was saying the Drunken Orc, it was a relapse back into Warhammer. Lorcan, Zeta Gundam, Laugh Riot on 3 continents. Well, okay. Gubbins Git 0083 Nuclear Boogaloo. 0083 is my favorite. Is is this a specific episode or is it like a series? I'm not too sure. I think they're talking Gundam jargon. Love Gato, Smiles and Bask. They must be. They've gone into their. I personally like Zeta.
Well, they're just doing their own thing because you were ignoring them.
This is it. Yeah. Solomon, I have returned. I don't know. I don't know. Look up Mortar Heads. Drunken Orca saying that is very true. Clean over 20 years, then fell off the wagon hard. This is Drunken Orca's only gotten back into 40k. He was out of it for a long time and he's gone bleeding nuts. Fair play to him.
Happens.
Yeah, they're still talking about Gundams. Their Gundam series. Gundam 0083 is a series. Okay, so it's a specific series. See, this is the thing I don't get with Gundams. It's like there's different universes, or there's I don't know. It's like there's a I know there's Universal Century. That's like a universe. So it's probably like the Marvel universe, sort of the way there's different universes in Marvel or different, depending on the comic series or something like that. So I'm like, okay. So Universal Century, I get that. Okay. So that's all set in the same sort of thing.
I've seen that on some Gundam boxes.
Yeah, so it'll say like... Yeah. He doesn't have a Gundam box spare, but it'll say like high grade Universal Century Origin series. I'm looking for a Zaku in that series, and I can't find them for love nor money at the moment. So it's like, okay, I know what it's from. Like, once I watched the series, I was like, oh, okay, grand. I recognize a lot of these. I was going to say mechs. I recognize a lot of these Gundam kits or Zakus or whatever. And these bits go together with that. But there's different, like, it's weird. There's different series and different sort of timelines.
You know how much Lorcan is rolling his eyes at us right now?
Well, that's grand. We're new to it. You know what I mean? We're new to it. We're allowed. Apparently, they're giving you a stick because of BattleTech. You're not on the BattleTech bandwagon, Nick. You're not a BattleTech man.
I don't know why.
Doesn't tickle your I'll have to change. I'll have to change those ways. When that cabin's done, I'll be out there to play a game with you, bud. Don't you worry.
Like at the last Real World GaleCon, I got to throw some dice. Like I said, I was just going to build and pick all day, but I ended up they passed me across dice and they showed me that it damaged parts of the armor on this mech, and I was like, that's really cool. I didn't know it was like that. I didn't know you had like these. It was this long haul of getting through the armor, an arm, damaging a weapon. I didn't realize it was as complex as that. But that side of it I thought was pretty neat. But I think it's just maybe I just need to read some of the lore. So some of their books have come up on Audible, some of the first few books, so that might be where I should start.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Like, I've only read a couple of novels myself, and I'm reading. I'm trying to read one. I'm terrible for reading. I'll be honest. I'm absolutely shocking at reading. But I've read a couple of novels starting off, and like there's so many bits and pieces, so many source books, so many novels. You know what I mean? There's quite a lot that you can get your hands on. But I think the thing that drew me to it was I'm missing a bit there. What color is this? Was the games. So the game itself is what drew me in, not the lore as such, but the lore is a nice little bonus for me. You know what I mean? Like there's no aliens in BattleTech, apart from that one novel, what should not be named. Okay, don't worry, I won't say it, lads. There's some yeah, there's a lot going on. Like there's a lot of like politics and stuff, and subterfuge and plots and schemes and all this type of stuff, and you're like, oh, all right. It's there's a lot to it. Like it's pretty good, and then the fact that it's really interesting for me, like BattleTech. It's a sci-fi war game, but it's kind of like a sci-fi war game that's also historical as well, because there's different eras in the game with slightly different
Right.
technology levels, so you can play off of that as well. You know what I mean? So it's got some of the things going for it that other games do as well.
Does it have dynasties, like where a certain family or house is in power for X amount of time?
Yeah, yeah. Families like are in power and then die off, and then the map changes. So there's a map, in-game map, and depending on which era you're playing in, different house factions will have lost and gained territory. There'll be civil wars that will have broken out, and there's all of that type
So
of stuff
curious.
going on. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot going on. We get to add springs to our mortars.
Woo! His eyes.
Lorcan is saying, tell Nick that Decision on Thunder Rift and its two sequels are on Audible and a good starting point. That is true, Lorcan. The three
Oh,
the three novels I started off with were the Grey Death Legion series, which is Decision on Thunder Rift, The Price of Glory, and Mercenary Star. I think Mercenary Star is the second one, but those three books starting off, they're a good starting point, and they're on Audible. Nick, there you go. You won't know yourself.
yeah. See, I've never read as much um, in any given period of time as I have since I started Audible. That has transformed the way I read. I think when you do a hobby like this, you think, well, I could go and build something, or I could sit and read a book, or maybe I could do
Both.
both at the same time.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, now I do both at the same.
I'm trying to chug through the Warrior series, and I'm finding that where it's like, when will I read? I've been bringing it into work to try and read on my breaks, but inevitably I find myself calling people, or I've realised I spend way too much time on me apps on my phone. I'm like, my God, the amount of time I waste on them, and then just
Sure.
chatting to people. So it's trying to sit down and make time to read a book, and maybe I should go down the Audible line of things.
Oh yeah, I couldn't recommend it highly enough. And some of the voice actors out there, like there's a guy called Toby Longworth who does a lot of the Black Library stuff, but it pops up like it just you actually find yourself stopping what you're doing, which isn't ideal. Because it's contrary to what I said before, that you can hobby and read at the same time. But yeah, you get so into it, and you sometimes are just staring at your as you listen because it's just so intense. But I've just found it fantastic, and sometimes there are full cast readings. Lorcan got me onto William Gibson's version of the Alien sequel, what would have been Alien 3.
Ooh.
And they did a full cast recording, including Michael Biehn, Lance Henriksen. So you can listen to what Alien Part 2 could have been like. That's on Audible.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It's only like it's the length of a feature film, so it is very short if you're paying full dollar for it.
I get the feeling these springs are going to go on the missing list. I'm already trying to flirt with them. Yeah. Alright, maybe if I lie it down at the desk. Yeah, I can definitely see this go. Oh! They're trying to escape, I tell you. Struggling. Right, what are the boys saying? Mark is saying, Dwayne has started law recently. Yeah. Tom was saying, I've struggled more and more to read since the internet got onto my phone. It's making me ADHD, I think. Audiobooks are great, though, when I'm painting or walking the dog. There you go. Yeah, definitely. D-Sun has showed up and has given us a wow. What's the crack, D-Sun? The original BattleTech setting was based on the Roman Wars of Succession, which is a big part of why it feels like historical fiction. That's true. They are set in the original ones are set in the Succession Wars.
Romans and mechs.
Pretty much. There's some of them are like that, and it's some of the houses are more. They're all ethnically diverse, but some of them lean more towards some like future pseudo ethnicities than others. Like
Sure.
some of them are Germanic, some of them are pretty much like space Bushido samurai. Other ones are space Norwegian sort of, but it all gets mixed together, so they end up
Space
with
Norwegian.
something like that. I think so. It depends on which one. Oh, Jesus, get in, you bastard.
It's like the Thing sequel, Norwegians go into space to get revenge.
Probably.
Thing from outer space, yeah.
The Thing from outer space. Oh man, The Thing.
Part 3.
That original film, man. My God, brilliant.
Yep.
I didn't see that until fairly recently as well.
The film buff in me is being like, well, the John Carpenter was a remake. That's yeah.
So when was the original Thing then?
60s, I think. I want to say.
And who was in that one then? Oh, so what tends to be the infamous one? It was a remake. Is the infamous one? Is it the one with what's his name? I've lost the spring. I knew this would happen.
Russell?
Yeah, Russell's in it.
Yeah, so I think there was The Thing from outer space, which was black and white, and there was John Carpenter's The Thing, which is Kurt Russell, and then there was, it was also called The Thing, but it was the prequel to the Kurt Russell one, and it actually, I enjoy watching the two movies together. I think they connect really well, although it's hard to John Carpenter's.
I mean, the practical effects were just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Stuff.
Mark is saying it's not reading, that's listening. He's giving you a shtick, so he is.
It's still just words going into your head.
Well, so it doesn't matter if it's your inner monologue or somebody else saying, as long as it sticks.
Right? Yeah.
I can tell this is.
And as long, I mean, if it was Blinkist or if it was like an abridged version that they did in the Audible, 100%, that's not reading the whole book. If it's unabridged, which what most of them are still reading the book.
I can tell this is a point of contention between the two of you. Right, so hold on. This goes. Does this bring that? Oh, hey!
It go going off into the void?
It does indeed. It goes. It doesn't want to shoot now. Misfire!
Remember the first time I put like a spring-loaded Lego thing? I think it was like one of the old pirate sets, and you pulled it back and it locked, and you put like a little.
The cannons.
Fired it. I was so excited to fire that for them. It just went about 1.5 inches, and I was like, "Oh, really? Needed the eye warning with that when it's just gonna go onto the floor."
Oh, well, hold on. Like the pirate cannons from Lego that I remember in the 90s, they shot across the other side of the room and bounced off the wall. Like you'd take a couple of eyes out with that one back in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
back in my day, you'd lose a limb if you stood in the way.
You got a real bow and arrow for Christmas. That's what you got.
This is it. What are we having for dinner? Well, it depends what you catch there, son. Now, go on now.
Off into the garden with you.
You've
We'll
had
be
your
bringing back slugs this time.
Oh, God.
A pro tip, never eat a slug.
They don't look exactly the most appetizing of things to eat. I've heard they're poisonous.
The salt content in your mouth, they will foam.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I mean, I've heard. Somebody
I've
told me.
I've done that in my childhood. I have put salt on my hair, and it's not a pleasant it's not a
Not a
pleasant
pleasant day.
sight. No, not at all. Not in the slightest. Marker's giving out saying that's
Nasty.
listening.
Sure. Like
Um,
sort of 8 or 9% beer, like something that in a bowl. Slugs will themselves.
oh yeah, I've heard of people doing that, like gardeners leaving out like a can of Dutch Gold or whatever, and the slugs just
Oh
sort
yeah,
of.
it has a Bavaria 8.6 or Dutch Gold, something really heavy juice. If you put out like Budweiser or Miller, they'll not.
They turn their noses up.
Yeah, it's got to be nasty.
It's got to be naff stuff. Yeah, I've heard of that being used for slug traps, and then people using 7 Up for wasps. They have like the wasp traps, and they'll put like 7 Up
Oh
into them.
really?
Or,
Yeah.
yeah.
We always did the classic jam jar with the holes punched into the top.
Oh yeah, for catching them
So
yourself.
half full of water.
Yeah. We didn't used to put water in them as kids. We just caught them and then held onto them for a while and then released them again. You know, the sort of catching the bees in my grandmother's back garden. She used to always have flowers and hedgerows that would bloom. They'd have I don't know what they were. I'm no botanist or whatever, but there'd be hedgerows and there'd be little flowers in them, and there's forever bees and wasps and stuff buzzing around them. And strangely enough, I don't know if it's nostalgia or my perception, but you just don't see as many of them around anymore. I noticed. You know what I mean?
I mean, you don't ever remember seeing a huge. I do remember there being a lot of bumblebees. But then I lived by a river. There were a lot of sort of wild flowers on the side of the rivers. I didn't like live by the river. There was a house river where you started in Ireland thing. But I remember there being a lot of bumblebees, a lot of honey.
Definitely a lot of bumblebees. No, I don't remember seeing a lot more. There was loads of them. I don't remember they were being, like my grandparents was in Dublin, the urban area of Dublin. I knew I'd lose to the spring. I knew it. I was like, as soon as I saw springs, I knew one would go flying somewhere. But yeah, like my grandparents is in the urban area of Dublin. But even still, I remember there was like the bushes and the hedgerows would be full of them. Like she had a lot of plants in the garden.
Right.
Place would be packed with them. Absolutely.
But there's definitely flowers you can grow that'll bring them in, like lavender and buddleia and things like that. A lot of dandelions will put a lot of them in.
Hey, I found it.
You spring?
I found the spring.
All right.
Thankfully, whether it sticks or not is another thing. Trying to squish it on and catch it without it flying off is going to be another. Oh, get on.
It's gone.
Jesus, you'll take an eye out.
In.
What's this?
I mean, that's the one good thing about Lego is they do like market research on all of their kits and find out which parts are most commonly lost in the building process, and you always get spares of those.
Yeah. I've noticed that with a couple of the helmet kits that the missus got me. There was a couple of studs and small squares and those bits and pieces. You'd be left with like a small collection of them at the end of the build, which is handy.
Yeah, and I think the first time you do it, you're a bit nervous. You're like, oh, these should. But then you realize, okay, this is intentional. These are always the most awkward bits that are going to fly off, or the tiny thing.
So the boys in the comment section, Lorcan was saying, my reading went to hell in the handcart about a year before the apocalypse, and we're making a concerted effort to read more recently. Mark was saying the problem with the Warrior series is the cast size and the fact it encompasses too much of the fourth Succession Wars. And he said, see, Nick just admitted he listens to it. Listening. Yeah, okay, Mark, no bother. Lorcan is saying, oddly, I haven't read the novelization of Gibson's Alien 3, but I did read the comic and the script back in the day.
I don't think it's a novelization. It's a dramatization. Audible.
Yeah, wasn't there like a
Um,
script written up? I think I've heard of it. Sort of. There was a
yeah,
script written up. It was going to go, and then there were some sort of shenanigans, and that project didn't go ahead, and one of the other films went ahead instead. I think I
yeah,
don't
they
know if
ended up going with the sort of convicts, which I think was originally um, but
it may have been yourself who was talking about it, but I've definitely like I have a passive interest in the Aliens franchise. I'm not like uber into it. I don't know. Maybe I am. Maybe I don't know. I don't know the names of everyone and the types of vehicles and the specific strains of aliens, but you know, I love watching the films.
yeah, I mean, it was my most watched film when I watched Alien,
I'm trying to think what
and
was my most watched film as a kid.
I don't think I've ever got past that. I don't think I've ever eclipsed it. With some way of checking, Alien are way ahead of any other movie.
Like I remember liking quite a lot of the old '80s fantasy films and stuff, like Conan
Oh,
and.
like Conan and stuff.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, man, that was. I couldn't get enough of that
bro.
stuff. As a '90s kid growing up, I was like, "This is brilliant."
Uh,
You know, in my eyes, the golden era had already passed. In the '80s, it's before my time. It's like, oh, if only I was 10 years older. You know.
Have experienced Krull live and in the cinema.
Ah, Jesus, that would have been living.
Yeah, I've been recently looking up you know, when a movie comes out that's super popular like Conan or Jaws or something, you know yourself there's always going to be a bunch of really cheap offs of it. Um and sometimes they're subtle, like it would be giant alligator Jaws, or it would just be another shark movie.
Mm.
The Barbarian movies, there was a whole bunch of cheap knockoffs of those, and I started like researching them last year, and I think I got to about the second one. I was like, no, I can't
There's only
justify spending. Yeah,
only so much low budget garbage you can watch. Is that what it
it
is?
really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so
It was the
awful.
same thing with Mad Max, though, didn't that? Like, if there's a very
Yeah,
successful and lucrative film, it sort of spawns a whole like plethora of knockoffs that are trying to cash in on the concept. Like, you
mm,
know, because I know that happened with Mad Max again. It's like on it, you know, we're not Mad Max, honest Gov, sort of El Cheapo films. There was quite a few of
yeah.
them as well.
I think Mad Max came out of like um the motorcycle gang movies, which was there was a whole slew of those after Easy Rider. I'm not sure about the date.
Makes sense.
Mad Max might have come before, but it kind of feels like the same. It feels like that motorcycle movie, even though he's in that sweet car for most of it. Um, I don't think I really fell in love with Mad Max until the second movie.
Thunderdome, maybe.
First one
Yeah,
didn't really connect with me. Yeah,
I think it's the same for a lot of people.
so I watched it the other night, and some of those motorcycle dudes, fantastic. They're nasty piece of work. Um, called Nail or something.
I can't remember the specifics of it. The only parts I remember of that film were the old woman with the shotgun, your man
Yeah,
being
with
tied to his bike that's gonna go
around her
on
legs.
fire. Yeah, yeah. He's he's,
Yeah.
he's, he's he's handcuffed and he's given a hacksaw. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember that bit. And the chase at the start, he's like your man who's the Night Rider or whatever he's called. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think the bit that like the lady with the calipers in her legs, the old lady with the shotgun, but also the wife and child in the road and the bikes on at them. I think just Mel Gibson at that moment was you could really tell he was gonna have a hell of a career. His acting was incredible. But I think it's a hard movie to watch because it's see. I think you would get pleasure from watching Mad Max.
The original one, yeah. It's like you can watch it, but it just
Pretty
depends.
grim.
Can be grim. Hold on, there's alternate builds. Oh look, there's extra Gumsy bits.
What?
Yeah, there's like there's a little shoddy, and there's like a helmet part that goes on this helmet, and then you can put the mortars on top of this thing. It's like ooh. So that's the base kit built. This is a lot smaller than the other SD kit that I got. The other SD kit was a little bit bigger than this. This one's quite ickle, actually.
SD, is that super deformed?
Yeah, the super deformed kits. Mark was saying the Swedish/Japanese mixed nation of the free Rashla. There you go, see mixed cultures. The original thing was like the early 60s. It's based on a John Campbell story called Who Goes There. Sci-fi was saying Pingu versus the Thing is one of the best things ever made. I have seen that sci-fi. It is hilarious. It's all clay animation that someone's done. It's brilliant. I think the same guy does like Doom. He does like a Doom clay animation, and it is gory and glorious. It's brilliant. Decent is saying some people are better at listening, others are better at reading. Gotta go, take it easy, bud. Solving Abuse is saying I got a smoking monkey for Xmas one year. Old school toys. Smoking monkey. I've no idea what that is. Is it a kit?
All with me.
She lost on me, I'm afraid. Lorcan was saying Gibson was contracted to write a script for Alien 3 and he later figured out it was probably never going to be made into a movie. They just wanted to mine it for ideas. He's also saying I once hit a man for saying that Hawk the Slayer was rubbish, but I realise now that what I should have done was say, you know what, Dad, maybe you're right. Let's give Krull a try instead. Lorcan, there's a great documentary about the Aussie exploitation movie scene around Mad Max. Check out the documentary, Not Quite Hollywood, the wild untold story of Ozploitation. Oh, Ozploitation, I get you. Mark is saying it's not an alt build. The Kefir just comes with Epic for Bearman. For Bearman?
Don't ask.
I'm starting to get to that stage in life where you learn to wise up to not ask certain questions. You just nod and agree. You know what I mean? It's like, yep, all right, grand, no bother. Are you busy this weekend? Wait. Always, yes, I am. Always. You know yourself. I keep myself busy. Have you any plans for the weekend? A bit of this, a bit of that. Otherwise, you're getting roped into God knows what. Oh, sure, I'm moving a fridge
or something for them.
Oh yeah, you never. Sure, you're handy with a roller and a paintbrush. You know what I mean? It's like, oh Jesus.
I love painting those miniatures.
Exactly. Sure, you're great at them old miniatures.
Outside of my house.
Yeah. There's a roller.
A small house.
We've throw up a bit of scaffolding there for you. You can paint the outside of the gaff. It's like, oh Jesus, thanks. Oh, this clips into that, does it? What is... Oh, I don't know. Stuff. Is this like it's backpack type thing, or... Shenanigans?
Oh, it's just us two here, right? It's just me and you. Just I confess to something. I was never confident with like power tools. That was something that always terrified me, the power tools. Since I got back into this hobby and I've been using Dremels and all that stuff, I have no fear of power tools. It's not a good thing. Operating a Dremel is not the same as a bandsaw. Yeah, I always was terrified of using.
I think the only thing I was a bit shy of using was the old angle grinder. I was a bit, or those, do you know those big circular saws that you put your plank of wood in, and those ones. I'm a bit apprehensive with anything that has the potential to rip a limb off and then some. You know what I mean, or do some serious damage to you. But I'll still give them a bash.
And you see pros using those big circular saws, and they're poking the wood through with a bit of stick.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is your job and you're using a bit of stick?
What madness is this? What's going on here, lads? Ah, nothing to see here. Should be grand. And they're just flying through it. Is this
Yeah, definitely since getting back into the hobby of
You've
grown in confidence with using
gotten a bit
tools.
brave, have you?
Yeah. I think it's just the practicalities of it. The practicalities of cutting or gluing are transferable skills.
Yeah, your hand-eye coordination. Yeah, definitely. It would help you in some regards. So we have this little camphor diode. Where did these go? Did these go on his feet? Oh yeah, there's little sockets there. So I haven't seen the episode that this guy's in, but I've heard about him, and where he sort of smuggled in somewhere to attack a place. So this is kind of like a little commando unit. That's why he's absolutely brimming with weapons.
Right, okay. It's like a kill squad kind of.
I think he's there as a sort of a distraction carnifex. Oh, the front can go on that way, can it? There we go. That can go that way. I suppose it probably helps when you see something. You know, if you've seen the cartoon, you know what it looks like assembled.
Right.
And then,
see, that's what I was going to say to you about Audible. I often listen to books that are relevant to what I'm building. If I'm doing orcs, I'll listen to orc books, like Asgol Thraka or Brutal Conan or something.
I still haven't read it. I've heard good things about
Brutal
it.
Conan?
Yeah, yeah.
Listen to the audio, honestly. Just those voices are fun. Orky goodness.
This gate is armored up to the nines. Also somewhat confusing me, but okay. But yeah, this
Did you
guy's...
catch the previews of any of the Warhammer stuff that's coming? The animation?
I had a peruse on Warhammer Community. I see there's a Gazgul book coming out soon.
There's a Gaskell book. Yeah, they've got 11 animations coming out as well. So not like 11 episodes, 11 separate. I don't know if there was any orc.
I did have a quick peruse of it, but I don't remember specifically seeing anything orky. Am I gonna have to take his head off and then put it back on again? I think so.
I think there's stuff where the orcs are the enemy.
Ah, well, that's nothing new there. You know, we're used to being the chaff. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, the orcs get cut down into droves. Where have I seen this before?
Everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah, pretty much. So this is our little SD camphor dude. And he's really, really ickle compared to... I have another kit here stashed away. I have another SD kit that I bought. I've been trying to get the SD Zaku, but sadly not so far. I'll throw that back in there. So you can see the size difference on Char's SD and then this guy. Like,
yeah,
there's a big old difference there. Like, this guy doesn't have any legs.
Cool though, aren't they?
They're hilarious. I love them. I do love the little chibi dudes. But you can buy like skeletons for them, so you can extend their limbs a little bit. So there's like, they're fun. I want to get a green Zaku, just the Zaku 2 for in SD1. I like the Zakus. That was my thing. I was like, I saw the Zakus and I was like, they look cool. I'd like some of them. And then it went from there. You know what I mean? It wasn't a case of I watched the cartoons and I was like, oh, this is this and that's that. But
right.
That's happened a little bit. I know these are mines or explosives or something that he has, and he blows stuff up with them.
I know he was just getting started in the hobby, and he sort of said, like, where do I get the bits and pieces for it? And I was like, well, I've got a few spare things, so I'll post them over to you. I sent him, like, a set of clippers, some brushes, some, just, and files, just normal things that you'll always have extras of. Then as a thank you, a couple of months later, he sent that a Blue Destin Alex thing that I featured. It was from the Blue Destiny. So that's kind of what got me hooked, was just building that.
Blue Destiny. What was it?
Yeah, Exam, that's what it was called. But the series, I think, is called Blue Destiny. Freaking lurking them.
I'm sure, yeah, they'll say.
Assist.
Blue Destiny series.
But for me, it was kind of like a quintessential Gundam. Like if you know you're asked to draw a picture of a Gundam, that I was just still blown away by the quality of it, the articulation.
Lorcan was bringing up a point of, okay, but the next Are You Free this weekend will also, are you vaccinated and want to hang out playing board games? I think I'll be, as soon as I'm vaccinated and, you know, we're allowed to actually be in the same building as other people for things other than food and essential purchases, I would be more than happy to roll dice and kick in mechs. You know what I mean? Have fun that way.
Yeah.
I mean, we're playing a Mega Mech campaign, but it's not the same. You know what I mean?
No.
It's not quite the same.
And there's a gap there to, you know, there's like a barrier you have to cross to get to the gate. The fact that it's station you're relying on.
Technology.
But I noticed that ScaleCon has gone fully remote again. Fully did a year, but UK Games Expo running it August. So it's going doors open. I think they're allowing 4,500 per day.
It's strange,
which is way down. It just feels really early to me. They have got all of this technology in place. The NEC has fitted these vents and cycling the air. Everyone in there has to have test hours of arriving at the door. Have to have that document to the door with your TA. So, they're trying their very best. But I have a ticket for it from bought it in 2019. Going over. That won't be going.
You won't be going. Yeah, I understand.
It's too soon.
Yeah, like October. My mentality was like October. Well, this is weird again. My mentality of it would have been like the soonest that I would, you know, be meeting up and gaming with people in the UK or something like that would probably be October. But like I don't know about you. I'm not vaccinated yet. The early 30s age group have not been drafted yet. Which is hilarious because everyone I work with is like much older than me. So they're all like, "Oh yeah, you know, I've gotten the first jab." And they're saying, "Have you got your one yet?" And I'm like, not yet. I'm too young. I'm waiting. I'm waiting eagerly. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm still waiting as well. But yeah, I just I think with the vaccinations, I'm not sure I'm psychologically ready to go into something as
so many people in such a small area. I suppose we've been so used to being away from people that we're going to adjust at different rates, I suppose. So some people, you know, jump in the deep end. Some people are probably going to be tentative and sort of maybe dip their toe a little bit. And then, you know, I think I reckon some people will not want to bother with it at all. They're, you know, quite happy with not being absolutely submerged in the social consciousness or the expectations, sort of.
I think it has been good for some people who are a bit more introverted, that they've had the opportunity to experience full hangouts, and because I know in our group every Wednesday it's a lot less of an ask of people to sort of say, "Hey, log into whatever for a couple of hours," than it would be, "Hey, lift up your life, go to a hotel, and come to the con with us." And don't get me wrong, as soon as GaleCon's back on next year with on and Apricon and whatever else, Vaticon, whatever else runs next year, I'll be there in the world. But this year I'm looking forward to going all in on a digital GaleCon.
Yeah, it'd be good fun. I mean, it gives us more time to prep for a physical convention more. You know, if you want to run a game or make minis or print stuff or paint stuff, you know, it means the next time that it's going to be on, it'll be hopefully it'll be a spectacle. You'll have so much time to prepare, but it just depends on the individual. You know, I know some people aren't coping too
Yeah.
well at the moment. Other people are quite happy, but I do think some folk will be quite happy that the social distancing between us, the standard has changed somewhat. If you get me,
Hmm.
you won't have people on top of you as much.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the
Because
expectation.
I
Anyway.
mean, speaking of UK Games Expo, when I went to it in 2019, I have on space. That was just outside of like a rock show. Just couldn't get over how busy. That busy.
You're breaking up a little bit there,
Surrounded by.
Nick.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's not your fault. I'm just giving you a heads up. You're going
I
to.
mean, I was just saying I've never experienced the density of people that was at the UK Games Expo in 2019. It was just madness.
Hmm. I went to Salute, I think, in 2016. There was a lot of people there, but I wasn't there for the gate opening. But I'd never seen so many wargamers in one place, and especially I think coming from Ireland, we don't really have a strong tradition of tabletop wargaming, so I'm not used to seeing so many older generation gamers as I did when I went there. And there's like the old lads are running like World War II games. And I was like, this is brilliant. I was looking at them going, yep, that'll be me in like 50 years or whatever. I was well chuffed. I was like, yeah, I can see myself doing this. So I'm in for life, am I?
Or I think there's a big college scene, but it depends year on year of who's around to run it. You might get some colleges like or game clubs next year they graduate and dies off for a few years.
Yeah, so it's not as consistent then. I get you. It depends
Yeah,
who's actually in the college at that point in time.
I think there is a decent. I think it goes
I,
that
I
age group, at
reckon
that
so.
younger age
Yeah,
group.
yeah. There
Yeah,
probably is, but I just haven't seen them all in the one sort of place.
sure.
Just like I've never before that, I'd never been to a convention that was just for tabletop wargaming. You know what I mean? We just don't really have that population. I think, or maybe I could be wrong now at this stage, but I would have assumed we wouldn't have had the same amount of wargamers.
Yeah, I mean, you should, if you can, get over to UK Games Expo next year just to see results.
Well, it's a weekend event, isn't it? You know,
It is. I think it's 4 days in total.
I'll have to talk to the rest of the war bosses lads and see what the story is. Maybe I could make an event of it. You never know. This kit is weird. This Gundam kit, it's really odd. Like it's very basic compared to what I've been used to. But I suppose it's only a tenner. You know what I mean? Can't complain. Can't be complaining. You got your tenner's worth.
I think my connection might be.
Yeah, your connection's a bit choppy at the moment.
It is. It is.
Mark was saying Zaku are a gift from a higher power. Lorcan is saying Blue Destiny is a computer game, also some toy novels and short-lived comic, like when they rigged the jury. They're talking about, yeah, they're talking about Gundams again. Lorcan is saying it's okay. I volunteered Mark's kitchen table to play games on. Oh, nice. Mark was saying, "Oh, that is some old Zaku kid. Ain't even got a waist separation." Yeah, yeah. That's what I mean. You know, that's what I was surprised about. This is Oldsmobile, old school. I think it's from like 1999, I think, or something. Yeah, yeah. Bandai Spirits, 1999, made in Japan. So this is old, and it don't look anything like this. It's all this sort of salmon pink plastic, so there isn't. You're gonna have to paint this to get anything like that.
I have one of those unbuilt.
These old schools. Like there's different. I don't even know. Is there a grade? There's no grade written on this, so it's. Oh, first grade, whatever that is.
First grade, yeah.
FG.
I think that's the.
That's like the my first ever Gundam type thing.
Yeah.
That's understandable. Yeah. Could do with a lick
I
of
think we
paint.
shop at the same store, so yeah.
I think we do.
Recognize the price sticker on yours is the same as one of mine.
It's like I think we do shop in the same store, but I did check other places. I checked a couple of stores, and I was like, "Do you have any Gundam kits?" And they're like, "Fair play to them. They'll have a look around the shop." I don't think so, but I'll have a look. So I've asked a few places if they have Gundam kits. I haven't just stuck to the one place. I've tried to shop around a bit in the limited capacity I have, but alas, it does not seem so. Where is the core of that leg? Yeah, like even the core of this leg is different compared to what I'm used to. I think I'll stick to high grade or bust. High grade or higher at this point.
Yeah.
These seem like fun, but I think I'll be sticking to high grade. Boop.
I have a few of them that I'm going to be building over the summer. And I've got like a high grade. I think I've got real grade. I think the only grade I don't have is perfect. They were crazy.
Perfect grades.
Yeah. The only one I didn't get, but I do have reals and high. The perfect is the one that I looked at briefly. No. Much money.
I mean, like, my problem is it's not a case of not wanting them. It's not able to get them at the moment just because of, you know, supply and demand in the world at this point in time. There's a million places you can buy them from, but, you know, they're all kind of out of stock at the moment, which is a bit of a pain. You know what I mean? Like, I want to... I know exactly what one I want to get next. I want to get a high-grade Origin series Universal Century Zaku. That's what I want. But I can't find them. For love, normally.
There are other ones. You don't have to just get Zaku's.
Yeah, but they look crap. It's not a Zaku. I'm not interested. I'm like, I like things.
Zaku or go home.
Yeah, exactly. Zaku or bust. I like to look at these ones. These ones look cool. Oh, they're the bad guys. Oh, perfect. I have no problem with that. These are the bad guys. I realised, you know, the sort of... that they're the throwaway Gundams and they're also green, and it's like, oh, they're kind of like orcs. They just sort of die they die in droves. But it's the same thing. Like, it's always like, I like when it comes to Star Wars, I like the Empire, I like TIE fighters, I like stormtroopers. You know, it's all the same sort of. I'm into the same sort of thing. I think it's because they're more realistic in my eyes. You know what I mean? I'm not really into the hero that can defeat 80 of them single-handedly. I was always like that with 40k as well. I never really liked Hero Hammer. I like seeing a lot of units or chaff, like individuals. You know what I mean? Like Guard. I like Imperial Guard, and I like lots of troop formations, and I like the needs when it's like Tyrannid swarms. You know, I've never really liked Space Marines or anything that's sort of small and elite. I did collect Space Wolves for a while when I first started and didn't know better. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's sort of more realistic, kind of as realistic as you can get.
So what you're saying is you like them to be cannon fodder that can. They have cool uniforms.
Yeah, it's. I think it's sort of. It's like I was supposed to be a historical wargamer, but I never found historical wargaming until it was too late. You know?
Okay.
Maybe that's what it is.
That's so ironic with it being historic. It's never too late to start historic wargaming.
Well, I mean,
the
like,
longer you wait, the more history there is.
I think the closest I've gotten is this bolt action tiger that I built, and I'm like, yeah, sure, I need to paint it soon. But then there's that hesitation of, oh, maybe I need to paint it in colors. I'm like, I'm not into bolt action, but if I was, I'd want to do like the North African sort of campaign, and I'm like, oh, what colors would that be? And you know what I mean? It's sort of
Oh yeah.
that sort of
Is that
thing.
like Rommel?
Yeah, it would have been Rommel and Rommel and yeah, it was the to and fro. I like that theater of World War
Desert
Two.
rats and all of that.
Yeah, the desert rats, the desert fox, all that sort of toing and froing, the combat. I think I like that era because it's sort of it's not all one sided like early war where it's the Germans pushing into France and pushing the Brits out, and and France capitulated. Like it's all kind of it's a one-sided fight. Now that's not to say that the Germans didn't lose casualties, but the momentum of the campaign was very one-sided, and then it's like the push out. The early war in the east is the same, and then late war it changes back. They get pushed back in. There's the counter attack, with the D-Day landings, and then pushing through France, and then back up into Europe, and then even going up through Italy after the fact. But I think I liked the North African campaign because there was a bit of toing and froing for the most of it until the Allies built up enough resources and momentum, and then the Americans landed in the West, and that was the end of it for them. But for a good while there was like victories and defeat, and getting pushed one way or another, counter attack on both sides. So I think for me it's kind of like the only part of the war where they were kind of on level footing to a certain degree, and I think that's what interests me with the
I
North
think
African
from
campaign.
like a miniatures and modeling perspective, it's some really interesting stuff. Again, really interesting weathering. The uniforms were all different. The technology, not something you see a huge amount of. Generally, you would get your dioramas and things. I don't think.
Yeah, some iconic tanks there as well, and such, and then bringing the tigers in and whatnot. What have we got in the comments section? Look, and we're saying hands up if you all shop at the same store. And Lorcan and Mark put their hands up. It's like yeah. We're all here. Lorcan, we're saying Master Grade is the other one you have, Nick. Lorcan, we're saying have you tried HLJ? What is HLJ? HLJ?
I think that's a store.
Oh, that's one of the online gun. I think I've looked at HLJ and they do not have any of the Zaku's I'm looking for.
Frontline would be the other big one in Ireland, but I think they have a lot of stuff.
Mark is saying, well said. Mono White till I die. They're not the bad guys. Yeah, all right. Gubbins Gate was asking, what about a Hyzak? I have no idea what a Hyzak is. Salvin is saying, have you played Bolt Action? You just answered. I played Bolt Action once. When I went to Salute in 2016, I got an introductory game off of Alessio Calvatore because the guy who's supposed to be doing intros was busy. And he was like, oh, all right, I'll teach you. So that is the only time I've played a game of Bolt Action was an intro game with Alessio. I haven't played since. I'd like to play. I'd like to give it a bash, but currently at this moment in time, a lot of my focus is on Battletech. I'm really enjoying, even though we're only playing online, I'm really enjoying Battletech. It's good fun. It's good crack. I really do like it. It reminds me of. It has some aspects that I really liked in some of the Warhammer games. Like my favorite sort of specialist game off of Games Workshop. I know I love Gorka Morka and Necromunda and such, and those skirmish campaign games, but my favorite game was Battlefleet Gothic. And it ties into the same sort of thing, where it's a game where you have your ships and you sustain damage, and you're sort of that grinding attrition, and then things start to go off with a with a bang. It's like, oh, his reactor went critical, and that set off a chain reaction. And I don't know what it is. I really like that sort of. It's kind of like the age of battleships in space is what Chambers sort of described. It's sort of like the Battle of Jutland in space. So there's, damage control, fires going off, weapons batteries being knocked out. Your port and starboard, depending on where your weapons are, and maneuvering, doing ramming attacks, doing boarding attacks, doing getting close and knocking the shields down of a Space Marine battle barge so that your Mega Knobs can do a teleport attack, and you're trying to attack critical locations. It's like, oh, we'll knock out the engines. It's drifting, close in and attack, that sort of thing. Like, what's the funniest thing I've ever seen? I've rammed a Space Marine battle barge with like 3 Orc cruisers at the same time, and it's madness. It's hilarious. And then you do a boarding action where all of your crews will attack, and it's like you're trying to loot. So it's very sort of campaign dependent. Battlefleet Gothic, I found, as a standalone.
That was a miniatures game.
It's a miniatures game with ships. Do I have any here handy? I don't know if I do, but it's literally like an Age of Sail game in space, but it was all set in the 40k universe. So you had like your Eldar fleets, you had your Orc fleets, Dark Eldar, Necrons, Space Marines, standard Imperial fleets, rogue traders, Tau. They had quite a bit of stuff. And I just liked how it played. I've always liked that aspect of being able to take damage and still play the game. And then you get to a decision point where you're trying to manage your assets, where you're trying to get the most out of them before they disintegrate and are destroyed. You get to that point when you're playing Battlefleet Gothic, especially if you're playing a campaign, where your ship is damaged and you could continue to fight, but you then run the risk of losing it, and losing it is going to cost you more in the long run. Or you can bug out. You can cut your losses. I like games like that, where you're sort of... I like that with games where you have to sort of decide, is it worth me continue to invest into this battle as it's unfolding? Will I get a victory out of it? Or is it going to be, even if I win at this stage, is it still worth me throwing, hell for leather? I like games like that. I'm not really into... the way that some games are played, where you play like it's the last day on Earth. You know what I mean? I like...
Right. There's no tomorrow. It doesn't matter if you lose everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's like sounds like Battlefield Gothic is consistent with the lore within 40k. There will be fleet commanders. Our job was to stop that. There's an orc and it's getting to that. They've got past us. They're on the planet. Our job is done. All we can really do is bug out, save these countless thousands of lives on these ships, and to fight another day. So they definitely do that. I mean, 40k isn't all just about like, no, we're here to kill everything. They are tactically aware.
This is true. But I just think that the gaming system, like Battlefleet Gothic, was really great campaign set up. Like there's a scenario which is Planet Strike, and it's literally the defender of the planet, and he'll get some minefields. He'll get some extra points for mines or planetary defenses. And then there'll be the attacker, and the attacker will get transports, or he'll use his own ships. And it's literally, you'll try and win by landing your forces onto the planet. And then they'll give you rules where it's like, okay, so for every so many X transports you got onto the planet, you can now play a 40k game or an epic game, and every so many transports gives you this many points. So that's how I got into Battlefleet Gothic, is I wanted to play a 40k campaign and start the campaign from out in space, fight your way into system.
Very cool.
And then land on planets and then play the 40k games. You know what I mean? I wanted to... And Battletech does that. Battletech has you land in on your jump points, you deploy your ships, there's rules for it, you can fight your way in, and land with your drop ships, unload, fighting all the way, you know what I mean, and, fight into the cities, and I really like that sort of It's sort of campaign play. I think it's sort of the ultimate campaign that any 40k player would want. You know, starting in
And I
space
think
and
you could
working away in.
probably even extend it for in between the spaceships and these marines. You could have like Adeptus Titan. So you could do that, that grand scale, like the epic scale. And then get into the, you're getting closer and closer to the blood and the mud. You could have it like a 3 in space, big Titan, the regular forces. That could be pretty.
You could, yeah, like your limit is your imagination. Really, it's
Yeah.
You could throw quite a lot into it. Like if you're going to be running something like this yourself, and you're thinking to yourself, right, we want to incorporate kill team into the game. You'll be like, okay, so what would we use kill team for? So it's small surgical strikes on specific targets, right? So before we even play any of the games, or just as the ships show up, we have strike teams that have landed on the defensive platforms. So you play your little kill team game where you're trying to knock out the defensive platforms, and then maybe that'll have a knock-on effect in the space battle where it's like, oh, well, the defensive platforms are knocked out because, the Space Marines kill team was successful and we don't get to use them in game, or maybe they're half as effective, or, you can go to town with it. You really can. I think the only problem I have is you have to do a lot of legwork for 40k. You know what I mean? There's a lot of that you have to do yourself. And I think that's facilitated a lot more with the Battletech rule set, which is what I like. You can get really crunchy with it. But that's not to say that you can't take from one gaming system and apply it to another one. So I really like how like a campaign system works in Battletech. I can always take that and go, I have this really cool concept of a 40k campaign. Here's where I got the rules from. Why don't we give this a bash and see how it works?
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, and even sitting sort of talking about it and imagining,
it gets you excited, doesn't it? It's like, yeah,
it gives you all that you need. Like you could do Battlefield Gothic where the enemy have deployed like a Space Hulk that they're going to throw at the planetary to that out, and you could then go into like a mission where you deploy like a kill team to the Space Hulk, and then you could go play Space Hulk.
Exactly.
And if you win that mission, you could stop the Space Hulk landing on the planet. You can just go for it all. You would have to learn a lot of game systems, but it'd be a huge amount of fun.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? You're tying it, you can tie it in and then just make it a sort of a narrative thing as the story unfolds. So even beforehand, if you're an orc player, it's like, well, what happens with a lot of orcs in the lore is their WAs kick off when a Space Hulk comes in system. So you can play Space Hulk as the orcs clearing out the Gene Stealers or Chaos Cultists or whatever, and then go off and see what part of the go into Gork screen and see what part of the universe it'll kick you out at. You know what I mean? It's
nice.
There's a lot of potential. There really is.
I think that's just it's helped by the fact there are so many game systems within 40k. Such a ton of lore as well, and there's a lot of stuff that people have just homebrewed. Play it whatever way that makes them happy. Like it does bother me when they'll say, "Oh, but the squats aren't in 40k." It's just like, well, go back and find data sheets for them, adapt them, and get the agreement on the table before you start to play or before you bring your army to bear. Say, hey, I'm bringing squats.
Yeah, have a conversation like we're having. It's like, what's everyone's expectations of the campaign? What do we want to get out of it? And someone will say, I think it would be cool if we did Space Hulk games like what you say, and then it's like, grand, incorporate that in. Someone wants to come up with like a squad army or something like that, and it's like, all right, well then you go away and make up a codex for them, or I'm sure you can find fan-made rules, and then we'll look at them, see if we agree on them or not, and then make any changes we need to that we all agree on, and go from there, and then make the game what you want it to be.
Yeah, and I think it's where like communities like Reddit can really help. Where there'll be somebody who's already done it or is passionate enough about it or knows about the balance of armies, be able to write you up a rule structure for it that's going to make sense.
Or mechanics that tend to come into effect. There's a thing called the elastic band mechanic, where it's best described in Mario Kart, where someone
For sure, yeah.
screams so far ahead that they're in the lead, and in traditional racing games, it's like, oh well, he's run away with it. But in Mario Kart, there's elastic band mechanics. So you've got your blue shell, you know what I mean? You've got your bullets. So you have boosts that are given to whoever's at the very back to get back into the fight. So it's, you know what I mean? Incorporating that sort of thing into campaigns as well is something that you need to take into account. Where if someone's running away with it, what mechanics are you going to put into place so that others still have a fighting chance and aren't just rolled every time?
Yeah. It's like having a huge amount of DACA, but none of it's accurate. When it actually lands on something, it does a massive amount of damage, and you get to fire it again. But if you get up close and personal with them, nobody work going to smash the life out of you. There's a balance there.
And then there's
I
taking into account how the armies are going to play. So, how are you going to take into account casualties for each army as well? You know what I mean? I if I was doing something like that, I'd want to work that out as well, where it's a case of, some armies are inevitably going to take more casualties than others, but they'd probably replace them easier. Whereas more elite forces would probably take less casualties, but it's harder for them to replace them, if you get me.
Yeah. I think that the beauty of this would be a fun experiment. The whole time you're experimenting, revising the playing game, having a laugh. It's never going to be life and death.
No,
It doesn't matter that thousands of squats died until you let it, locked down. As long as the other people are playing with know that you're bringing Space Fimir or something.
Well, yeah, but that's the time to get those units. You know what I mean? It's like stuff that's maybe it's in the lore, and stuff hasn't been made for a long time, or there's no rules for it currently, or maybe even like the Zotes and such, where you've they're starting, these type of things are starting to crop up a little bit. You could have things like that where it's like, oh, it's a crash ship, or you can do what you want with it, really. I'll look into the comments section and see what I've ignored for a prolonged period of time.
This is not on me. People who are watching, this is all on Scar.
Lorcan is saying Ambush Alley is basically a historical war game and it has a Gulf War II, son of Gulf War source book. Nice. I've actually just been watching a lot of stuff about the Gulf War recently. I don't know why, but I have. Wait, it's Force on Force now. I should know this. I have the rule book. He's saying so. Dwayne is saying that he wants to give Campaign for North Africa a shot. I mean, if you have the miniatures, I'll play the game. Solvent Abuse is saying bolt action is a good entry point to historical. I think Battletech is excellent in my opinion. Good fun. I agree on both points. Dread. I do. I can feel. Yeah. I can see my interest in bolt action because I was raised on old war films as a school kid, going to my grandparents after school. There was always the old war films on. That's what I think. That's where my sort of, love for tanks and soldiery and that sort of thing comes from.
Yeah.
And where I get into wargaming.
Yeah. I came up on before Kelly's here, it was Bridge, the River Kwai, and
oh yeah, Jesus, classics.
Tons of them. The Iron Cross is another really amazing. And modern, I say modern and say Ryan and.
Well, it's funny you say that. I sort of still think of them that way myself.
Fury, that was just, if you like tank stories, all these heroes is but Fury is hardcore.
I don't know. Do you get to a certain age and you just become a curmudgeon-y old man? I'm like, I like Fury. I like Fury up to a certain point. I was like, it's a great film, and then it gets near the end, and I'm like, these guys are just throwing themselves at this tank. I'm like, what's the, you know what I mean? It got a bit ridiculous for me. I was like, what's the point in this? What? Does this need?
Yeah, and that probably goes back to what I said before about deciding to bug out. Those soldiers probably just would have bugged out taken down the tank crossroads it was at, and then altered in an airstrike later.
I think it was a case of me just being fuzzy and employing real world logic to a Hollywood movie. You know,
Sure.
there's a. I'm slowly sort of getting to that realization where, you know, you go to the movies, you turn your brain off. You know what I mean? When it gets to certain points.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you won't have any enjoyment.
I was shouting at Star Wars, but that wouldn't happen.
Oh, no, please, don't get started on Star Wars. Jesus, don't get started on Star Wars. It's a good thing Dim's not here in the comment section. My God.
Get a poll on what everyone's favorite Star Wars movie.
Don't kick the hornet's nest, please, Nick. Please. A fear of what the comment section would turn into.
Misunderstood work of genius.
We have Gubbins Gate saying hi, Zax are a lot like Zaku, so you'll like them. Well, nice there, not Zaku. A green goof custom would be really cool. I think you'll find the goof is no Zaku boy. They're talking Gundam jargon again. Sci-fi, but Scar with a big enough teleporter don't need to get close to planet. This is true, Side. This is very true. Modeling for Advantage is here. Can't stick around tonight, Sally, but wanted to say hi, folks. What's the crack? I take it it's the Kaiser dropping in. Hey, bud. Cracking good show over there for Modeling for Advantage. If you haven't checked that channel out, they do. I'm blaming them.
I really like that.
I'm blaming them for my interest in bolt action again. They do a lot of they do a lot of bolt action stuff. There was watching one of their battle reports there, and I was liking what I was seeing. Some really nice stuff. They do a fair spread. They do, the lads. Fair play to them. What else have we got in the comments section? Lorcan, Drop Fleet has some fun rules for integrating a space battle into their ground flight and drop zone. Both sides can add reinforcements. I did have Drop Fleet, I think it is. What was the book? Or Drop Zone Commander, where it's 6 mil scale and you've jump ships and you're moving around the city. I did have that box set at one point, and I think I gave it away to my local gaming club when I left London. I think, or I might still have it. I'm not too sure. It's in an attic somewhere.
Okay.
Sci-fi is saying a squat advocate talking to a blood axe boss. I sense backstabbing imminent. Mark agrees. Campaign for North Africa does not have miniatures. It has thousands of little counters. It's usually called the most complex war game ever made. Oh, don't be. Has it got all like the little unit chits, and they're all in loads of little hexes, and you move them along. I've been finding myself watching a lot of them as well. Don't be saying things like that to me. Yeah, I told you, man. I'm like, I don't know. It's like there must be this switch in your wargaming brain once you hit your 30s.
Old man.
Yeah, you're just like, ugh, where's me pipe and me cap?
You'll be phoning the RAF to see if they have a sample of a certain type of paint. You're using the actual paint. Yeah.
Now, there are several brands here, but I want to get an exact colour match. So I've posted you some colour swatches. Can you just circle the one that's most appropriate? In fact, better, just hold it up against the interior and take a picture for me. Now, make sure
the Imperial War Museum and take scrapings off the
off the tanks. It's like you got chucked out taking samples. I used to frequent the Imperial War Museum a fair bit.
It's an amazing place.
I never went to Bovington though. That's still on me to hit list. And by hit list I mean visit. Just visit. Maybe buy a few bits and pieces in the
I wouldn't even try that with my accent. I wouldn't even.
Go on. Ulster Sentinel.
It'll be used against me at some point in the future. But I really enjoyed the Imperial War Museum.
Ah, it's great, man. I if anyone gets the chance, and HMS Belfast as well. If you're ever in London,
amazing.
Check it out, man. It's really good. And you can hire out like function rooms in it. So it's like
you can hire out the ship.
Yeah, you can. You can hire out the function room in the ship. I'm like, that has to happen.
Try to fit it down some canal like the Evergreen and get it stuck.
It's like, sorry lads, the BattleTech Kickstarter is delayed. We've blocked the English channel. I'm sorry.
There's a destroyer sitting. Some Dublin guy and some Northern Ireland guy on it.
And the cruiser, I think it was. Was it a cruiser? I think it was a cruiser.
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't know. knew I was taking a risk by calling it.
Ah, well, it is what it is. I'm no rivet counter. You know, people will paint up a tiger tank, and they'll probably paint up like the later era. It's like, I think you'll find that gun mantlet wasn't used in the African campaign.
That engine
That
cover
unit
was
insignia is totally inappropriate. I'll be like, I'm here to have fun. Jog on, mate.
yeah. Somebody was saying there are very few tigers
left in existence.
That they just didn't survive the war.
No, this is what happens when you lose a war. You know what I mean? All their stuff tends to get robbed and scrapped. A lot of it's been scrapped. Yeah, an awful lot of it's been scrapped.
Watched any of the shows on YouTube where people have gone with metal detectors in the field? Some really amazing stuff.
Oh, the amount of videos I've watched where it's like bog in eastern Ukraine and they pull like a stug tree out, like no bother. Ah, yeah, the wheel's still torn and everything, like because it it flipped over and just sunk into the bog, and they're just pulling tanks out. It's hilarious. Or like T-34s. There's loads of them that happens to. A lot of the stuff just gets preserved really well in that regard.
Oh, you mentioned that you're in the looking at the Gulf War at the minute. Have you seen Generation Kill?
Oh, I have not seen full episodes of it. I have seen clips of it because, funnily enough, it pops up in my to watch feed now. It's like,
hey,
I see you've been watching Gulf War stuff. How about some of this?
So it's incredibly well made. A lot of the people who star in it were actual recon Marines in that unit doing that action for the speed into Baghdad. It's all based on this report that the Rolling Stones reporter who was embedded with them, thing that he wrote. He wrote articles in the magazine that became a book. It became a miniseries. I think it's the team behind The Wire who actually made the show.
So it's worth a watch then, yeah. Generation Kill, yeah.
It's utterly fun. It is just so tense the entire way through. Unarmored Humvee at the tip of the thing into Iraq. Funny.
Jesus. Yeah, I have been watching a fair bit. I think I've watched like the briefing that they gave the media and stuff like that when it was like Operation Desert Storm, where they're talking about, I think it's like General Schwarzkopf or something like that.
Yeah, Storm and Norman.
Yeah, Storm and Norman. I never heard of the chap, but I was watching the briefing he gave, and like it's an hour-long thing where he's talking to the media, and the media are asking him questions, and pivotal points in the battle where there's the I forget the elite units names, but where they were having the massive tank battle, pushing into Iraq to fight them. I was like, ooh.
They developed this thing called maneuver warfare. Maneuver warfare was to move so fast that the enemy didn't really know where you were. And that you were, often when they started to get reports of what your troop movements were, you were 50 miles away. They would start to deploy for where they thought you were. You'd already hit somewhere else. And that's why they could get away with these lightly armored Humvees. Literally just they were moving so quickly and hit so hard as they went, and they had a lot of artillery cover. They were able just to do this. Troops on the ground had very little idea that was the right. They all thought, like, what the hell are we doing? Why don't we have tanks? Because they had surprisingly little armor with them. It's a really cool thing. I mean, it's one of those things you can only do once.
Oh yeah, because they learn. Yeah. Your enemy will adapt to, they'll adapt to your tactics. Yeah, I get you. But it is interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, really fascinating.
Like, even just looking at it from a wargaming standpoint, it's like, oh, okay, well, these guys have dug in this position here, and then, you know, there's the desert out to the west of them, and, you know, they didn't expect the Americans to go that direction because, you know, even their units get lost on the way and that sort of thing. But what they didn't realize was GPS had just been invented, you know, this sort of thing, and it was utilized in the battle to great effect and all this type of stuff. So it's like, oh, okay. You know, I find that sort of thing interesting. Why commanders at the time thought a certain way and their expectations of the opposing force and what actually affected the battlefield. You know, that sort of
Yeah, it was
general.
like they were given. I mean, certain units were given blue force trackers, which were just really that they showed the location of all of your all the friendlies. As intel came in, it got updated with all the information about where the enemy was. The enemy had no idea that that they were sort of sitting on the top of a roof waiting to ambush, and they'd already been lit up by these blue force trackers.
Mm.
This would be coming through the screen within your where everyone was. That last piece of data came in.
Friend or foe identification stuff. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Lorcan is saying from the wiki, the campaign for North Africa offered more detail than any board war game before or since, leading to mixed reactions. The game includes 1,800 counters, maps large enough to cover several tables, and a 3-volume rulebook. The rules cover logistics in extreme detail, far more so than the combat simulation. Ooh. I think I have a game called Panzer Blitz by Avalon, maybe, that's set in the Eastern Front around Kiev. Commonly cited example for the game's level of detail noted in SPI's advertising is that the Italian troops required additional water supplies to prepare pasta. Ha! I love it. Solving the same Bovington's great, well worth the day there. Oh, definitely, mate, definitely. I've always looked at Tiger there and been like, oh, I could do it. What can I say? It is recommended that each side be played by a 5-person team, including a commander-in-chief and 4 subordinate commanders, making a total of 10 players needed for the game. Though it can be played with 2, according to the SPI, a complete game coming on over 1,500 hours. Completed full games of the campaign for North Africa were rare. However, although the campaign for North Africa is only barely playable, it is prized by collectors. I'd give that a bash.
Did you say 1,500 hours
of gameplay? I mean, that's like, I bought this for when we retire, Bob. You know, when we've nothing better to do.
Yeah.
And hopefully we live long enough to play it to the end.
That's just...
Mighty Joe is saying, if nobody have games of Necromunda at 40k and now my minis are collecting dust and busted up. Ah, oh, it's sad to hear, Joe. Is there no gaming in your area at all? Have you tried to I'm probably going to ask obvious questions that you've already checked out, but you never know. Some people omit some things as well. They don't think a certain way, or you know yourself. Have you tried looking in your local gaming area to see if there is anyone that like if there's Facebook groups? I've found that, especially in Ireland, there tends to be little pockets of gamers that are right beside each other, and they had no knowledge of each other before, you know, they bump into each other for some reason or another. I find that phenomenon hilarious. So it's always good to try and look around and see if there is anyone in your local area, and if not, it's up to yourself if you're willing to put the graft in to be the guy who gets the ball rolling. And you know, if it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, well, you at least you can turn around and say that, hey, I tried, you know.
There is an app to help with this. It's temporarily disabled. It will be back up and it's called Game AMEFOR. And Game 4 has 2 jobs. One is to find gamers near where you live, and the other one is to find game stores. And enter any city in the world into it. Tell you where the community is, game, and where to go and get your supplies from. So ended because of COVID. It will be back. There was a whole bunch of stuff in Ireland up and active.
I think I was on
Well
that
worth sort
myself,
of
yeah.
bookmarking. It's really good. Anytime I was going on a holiday, wherever it might be, Copenhagen or London or whatever it might be, I always checked in Gamer where all the hobby stores were first before agreeing to going to that place.
Is there a hobby store there? No, not going, love.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's not happening.
Going.
It's not happening, love. If I can't get me fix, it's not happening.
Actually, a YouTuber called Adam who runs a channel called Tabletop Minions.
Yeah. I've come across him. Uncle Adam.
Yeah, Game 4 is his day job.
Ah. Oh, that's his full-time day job, is it?
Yeah, that's his full-time day job.
Oh, nice. Lorcan is saying, do you need to be sorted with a copy of Generation Kill? Yes, I do. He's saying that Fruity Rudy plays himself in the show, and Eric Kocher plays as one of the Marines in the other platoon that gets airtime. A different actor plays Kocher in the show. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Or Coker, or I don't know how to pronounce that.
Cocker, yeah.
Maybe it is.
Rudy, he now does I think his YouTube channel where he teaches about urban survival in a post-apocalyptic world. I'll tell you all about new, but he was on him. It was pretty good for someone who's not a professional actor. He was really good at it.
He does zombie apocalypse style stuff, is it?
Now he does that stuff. Yeah, that's a little bit of what he does. I think he's just really into fitness, survival, and all of that stuff.
Ah, I get you.
But yeah, he plays himself in that show, so you can tell that if those guys are signing off on it, you know that it's going to be authentic.
Ah, right, I get you. Yeah, it's like if they're in the show themselves and it's written about them, then they're happy enough with it. Lorcan is saying to me there is a copy of Campaign for North Africa on Tabletop Simulator. Yes, it's like well, spare time. It was fun while it lasted.
1,500 hours.
It's nice now, you lads. I'll have to sell the orcs off.
And you run it at X on Tabletop Simulator? Is that possible?
Run it on which? Sorry, you broke up a bit there, Nick.
Can you run it at faster than real time?
I don't know. I'm sure you could get the Tabletop Simulator to do some of the heavy lifting for you. That tends to be the thing that happens with some games. Like there's I know when we use Megamech, we use Megamech to play Battletech, and it does a lot of it basically does all the dice rolling for you and calculations and tracking and stuff like that. So it speeds things up a fair bit. I mean, depending on which settings are used, but we won't go into that. If some people forget to activate certain settings, the games can take longer, but these things happen, lads.
I don't know if you can see the little dude at the back, the little gunner.
Close cam.
Little rotating platform. So I haven't built this gun yet. This is where I'm up to tonight with this Ivern. I like the little dude at the back.
Happy days. I so far have a pair of legs and a limb for this second one, and we've got our little camphor. SD camphor is built, and he's ickle, which I find is hilarious.
Oh, adorable.
And spring loaded for funsies. I fixed those settings. Okay, Lorcan, don't worry. I wasn't aiming it at anyone in particular. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's okay. This is you literally get just one you don't even get a booklet for the instructions in this. It's so old school. It's literally like a little sheaf of paper. You just sort of unfold a third of the page, and that's it. Your leaflet of instructions.
At least it's not Hero Quest where it's printed on the box.
Ah, but that's part of the glory of here. Are you bad mountain hero? How dare you,
Ever.
sir? Pistols at
On
dawn.
this life or the next.
That's what I like to hear.
Hero Quest is golden.
Oh, stop and Hero Quest. Love it. Cracking. Me and me mates used to play when we were kids, and I wasn't allowed into my friend's house. I wasn't allowed into other people's houses, so we used to have to play in my friend's garden when I was younger,
Right.
and it was brilliant. But they were bastards, a lot of them. They're like, oh, you read out the scenario so well. You should be the GM. Like, so every time we went to play the game, I was the dungeon master.
Aww.
But it's like it's not too bad because I like setting up the dungeons. But even still, it's like maybe that's why I'm so bitter inside. I never got to be the hero, you know.
Once I wanted to play.
I was like, oh, you'll all die now, die. Happy days.
I think I got like one of them at a birthday and one of them at Christmas. So I had like Space Crusade and Hero Quest came. Once we got Space Crusade, nobody wanted to Quest any.
No,
Loved Hero Quest. Every time it was like, what game will I bring? It was like Space Crusade.
I never played it though.
With a bunch of minis.
Never got a chance to play Space Crusade. And any time I'd ask about it in later years, anyone I've asked, their opinion was like that Space or it wasn't as good as Hero Quest.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't. But it was probably better value what you got in the. In it, but you got a lot of stuff. It just wasn't as it. Didn't find it as engaging.
Not as immersive, maybe, or
Yeah, possibly. Maybe it was just because it was sort of like it was giving you a taste 40k of like here are these different chapters, and this one does this and this one does this. It wasn't enough of it. It just felt like you were playing someone else's story. But in Hero Quest, you were playing your own. Like this was your barbarian. I think that was probably the difference. Yeah.
Yeah, because I even laughed to myself like when I got me nephew to play. So playing with me nephew and my brother, we were playing Hero Quest as the last time we played it. I think he was 6 at the time, and he wanted to play the dwarf. And I was like, oh, well, you can name him. What are you going to call him? He's like, Adam. I'm going to call him Adam the dwarf. I'm like, all right. Right, well, you're right. See where it says name? You're right. His name down there. And it's like, how do you spell Adam? It's like, all right, that's how you spell Adam. And he was literally like the most money-hungry dwarf I've ever seen. Me nephew played. He'd go in, he'd get as much gold as he could, and he'd try and bugger off before the quest was even finished. Like, he's like, no, I've got all the loot. I'm out of here. I'm like, all right. And he was leaving me brother, his father, to be the barbarian clearing the dungeon. Like, it's like, It was just entertainment.
Brilliant.
Absolute entertainment. Where are you going? Oh, I've all the treasure. Yeah. I've got all the treasure. I'm going now. Yeah. It's like typical dwarf. Fair enough.
I imagine that's on Tabletop Simulator. I'd imagine it and
I'd be very surprised if it wasn't.
Spin-offs and expansion.
What do you think of the re-release that they're doing? Have you thrown your eye on it, or?
This is the
Hasbro.
Okay. I think much like a lot of these things, the nostalgia of it is what I'm nostalgic about it. If you came to me and gave me a mint copy of like the original Hero Quest, that whatever it was MB Games, I'd be like, it blew my mind. Did I want to spend a couple of $100? The game itself at good by today's standard.
I suppose, yeah, you have to compare it to what you can buy for the same amount of money.
Sure. Yeah. I don't think if you were, if you spent 200 quid on a mint copy of Hero Quest or whatever that re-release is costing, if you look at BattleTech and put the same money into that, you could have so much better time with BattleTech.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, you'd get a lot of miniatures for it. You know what I mean? And 200 quid. Like Jesus, yeah, you'd be well set.
Yeah. or even something that's a bit more sort of dungeon crawly, like Massive Darkness, something like that. Get that, for a lot less money, a much more up to date.
Don't tell me you're one of these who prescribes to all, old rule sets aren't or flawed in some way or another. Don't tell me you're one of them, Nick.
I mean, when it comes to like the likes of Blood Bowl, I know sort of Mark talks to me about this because I'm a bit of a, what's the word, grognard?
Grognard. In what regard?
Because I like the second Blood Bowl, the one from. I just love the way that played. I love the way you had to roll for a throw, or you had to modify for throw plus catch. It just made sense. I removed that, and I thought, surely you would have to modify for the ability of the guy you're throwing it at. How good a catcher is he? He might not even have hands.
Doesn't matter.
And I think that so for certain games, I like the old rule.
Well, I'm a bit like that when it comes to 40k myself. If I'm being honest, I'm not too enamored with the latest editions. And I think in large part it's because I miss templates, and I miss having templates in the game. I rather enjoyed the gameplay that you had with them, and just the rule set, the style of rules that it's gone towards. It's just not what I'm looking for in a war game. You know what I mean? So I've had that sort of conundrum with it, which is a bit odd for me. It's not the right way. That is the right way.
And I suppose it is hard to sort of find players to go like a road trip second edition. A lot of players are like, well, I've just paid all this kilometers. I have the new rulebook. I want to play 9th. I don't want to play 2nd or 5th or whatever. But I imagine it would be tough to sort of find someone who would be willing to go back and.
It just depends. Like you can find like-minded spirits, like we were talking about, trying to find gaming groups and stuff. You can find gaming groups on Facebook or on the internet where it's like, we play 5th edition Warhammer Fantasy, or we play 4th edition 40k. There's groups for like 2nd ed. Where do am I supposed to connect his legs in already? No, not yet. No, yes, I am. I am supposed to connect. I knew I was supposed to connect his legs in already. I'm like, I put the torso together. I'm like, where's the legs going? Oh, this is El Bog Standard, El Cheapo Charizaki, definitely. This is going to need a lick of paint. This can't stay salmon pink for the rest of its days. There's literally no colour variation at all. Boy, Jesus.
What someone was showing me the other day, they got a lot of like 40k type scenery, but it wasn't made by Games Workshop, and they primed it gray, and they stuff from Army Painter. That was it. I think they did maybe a little bit of dry brushing after that with a lighter but they got from results. I was just thinking that might be shortcuts to getting them painted.
Oh, definitely, I would say so. I'd reckon so. I'm sure there is.
One thing about that Army Painter dip is it took a few days to.
Well, it's like it's like a lacquer varnish, though, isn't it?
I think it's what's the term base on it? Not alcohol based.
It's like some sort of. It's an old school method that the old hands
it's like
used
the old
to use.
Humbrol enamel paints and stuff.
Yeah.
That's it, enamel.
I'm looking at the connection points for his legs, and I'm not impressed with the 2 piddly bits of plastic they give you. I'm like, this is not going to last. It doesn't look like it's going to last.
I can't remember the name of the real grade that I got, but I know Larkin gave me warning about it transforms as well, which terrifies me. But he said that the connect or etchy break.
No, transforming ones I'm not too enamored with.
About that.
Wouldn't be too bothered if they transform or not. But I suppose that's because, we come from the war. Well, I come from the wargaming background. I suppose you do too. It's like maybe we look at them slightly differently than people who just got into Gundam. Like, because there's different. You can buy like flying posing stands and stuff, and I'm like, okay, I see the point in them, but I'm just at this moment in time, I'm not too bothered about them. You know.
Sure. Is it Pirate Look at the cartoon? We were talking about it the other day. I know there's an amazing ship. It's from that, which is quite expensive, and it's this huge sort of. It comes with what looks like an articulated flying staff. So you can just sort of move the ship around, and that's just
That
that'd be
sounds
cool
cool.
for Gundams. Yeah. But yeah, I was worried that when I started building Gundam that it would take the shine off of Warhammer, and not just Warhammer, like all the other brands. But I don't think it has. I think it's so very different.
Yeah, it's its own beast, kind of. It has similarities,
Yeah,
but I find it's its own sort of thing at the same time. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, it feels like the action figure market more than the miniatures.
For now, I think so. Yeah, for the experience of the cheaper kits that I have, some of these, like especially these like uber cheapy ones, like the 10 quid. Like this really is screaming action figure to me. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm looking at the like more intricate builds, and I'm like, ooh, like they're looking like expensive scale model kits to me that you just be able to pose at the end. So I don't know. Maybe the perception of it is slightly different on the higher end, if you get me.
Hmm.
But I can
Yeah.
I definitely understand what you're saying. Like at the cheaper end, where it's sort of action figure-y, sort of toyish to a certain degree,
Hmm.
more so than what we're used to. But definitely looking at
I mean, I'm
some of the
under
side
no
ones.
illusions that all of the stuff we do is toy soldiers. Um, but yeah, it never feels like I'm making figures with Warhammer stuff. It feels
These
so static.
are this is his leg connectors. I am somewhat worried.
Glue.
Glue, sacrilege. You don't need to figure which way around it's gonna go. What have we got in the comments section again? But the best thing about Hero Quest is the instructions being printed on the box. Definitely. Cracking video.
I
Someone
love that
Abuse is saying
video.
he's almost finished a French 36-man battalion for naps. Listen to you guys. Good chit chat. Cheers, Dread. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. Nick is indeed a good guest to have on. We do have a bit of banter on and
Who
off
said
the
that?
air.
My favorite.
My favoritist.
My
Mark,
favorite.
not as tough as you think. Oh, I suppose. The problem isn't that a Hero Quest is old, it's that it's aimed at a younger audience. As an adult gamer,
That's
are
a good
better
point.
off with one of the D&D dungeon crawlers Hasbro do, or Descent, or any of the Kumini and Not games, or Dark Souls, or Kingdom Death Monster, or. Yeah, I think the main difference between Hero Quest back in the day and now is we are literally spoiled for choice. There is so much out there now that it has to compete with, but it has an edge to a certain degree in that it wins in the nostalgia department. But is it going to be the same in 10 or 15 years time, where the next generation of gamers are are coming up and they're like, Zombicide is to them what Hero Quest was to us. You know what I mean?
Right? Yeah.
Um,
It's interesting that the titles that you read out there, because yeah, absolutely, they're modern Quest. I think Path of Darkness probably the closest that I've had to Quest. You've also got the likes of Blackstone, which is like 40 dungeon crawler.
how much support are they getting long term though? That's always the thing when it comes to anything Games Workshop does. I'm always trying to think like, how much support is it gonna get long term?
Yeah, I mean it's the core game alone is probably got a huge replayability, and then they released a bunch of expansions for it. The core game is still available for sale, so it's as supported as anything really.
See,
The
this is
city is the only kind of hard one at the minute because of COVID and a lot of
yeah, I've heard of the shenanigans
over
with Curse
promising.
City and reselling and such. There's quite a lot of people up in arms about it, which is understandable.
Mm.
That is dodgy as hell.
I think it. I mean, it was widely available when it was on sale. Dependent, seller dependent. There were a lot available, but it didn't help that Games Hub store shut down. It crashed.
Oh, there was such demand for
Couldn't
it.
handle.
Yeah.
Then I think a lot of people were left waiting for that to come back. As soon as I saw that happen, I was like, nope, and I went straight over to an independent. Managed to secure one that way, but I could see why that might not have been available for everyone.
Do you reckon it was bots? Do you think people are so desperate for these kits that they're shopping with bots now? Like, in order for it
Definitely, I mean,
to crash so much, either a lot of people are online, but I reckon there must be people shopping with bots. There's so much fear of lost sales tactics being used that people are desperately trying to get their hands on this stuff. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised if it was crashing because of it.
it crashed very early. So it was 10 a.m. It became available that Saturday. It crashed just after that. So I don't know how long it took for them to come back. By the time it had come back, I'd already gone over to another retailer and got mine.
Yeah.
It was not experience, and I think that the problem was afterwards the Amish shop dropped the ball on putting their hands up and say, "Hey, sorry." Just being honest, I think they deleted a lot of posts to hide it on.
Yeah, I've heard of shenanigans about that, about them deleting posts off of the Warhammer community or editing posts after the fact with product releases and launches. I think it happened with the Kill Team terrain box sets. They backpedal on some of the stuff.
We'll never get the full picture, and we have to assume positive intent on their part. But I think it just needed a little bit more of a public statement from them. Say, hey, mess up. This is what we did wrong, and this is to have it happen again.
Well, this is it, and we've learned from this experience. So hopefully it doesn't happen. Oop. This is a bit of a weird kit. This one. It really is.
This is the salmon one.
This is this kit here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, contents may vary. Definitely. I'm assuming that's what it says on the bottom there because,
I'm looking forward to getting. I have a stack of them that I ordered from Dublin City, and I'm looking forward to getting started into them. I just knew I had to get rid of all of the Imperial Guard here before I could actually play time with them.
Oh yeah, that's you're taking the sensible approach. It's like, I'll clear my backlog before I'll buy more stuff. I'm like, no, I'll jump in the deep end a bit. But I think sort of the blessing in disguise is that it's hard to get your hands on this stuff. So I think I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, oh, okay, these kits are kind of cool, but I want to get more intricate kits, and they're not currently available. So that's kind of naturally pumping the brakes from me, whether I like it or not.
Yeah, would you try some of the clear plastic ones?
It's clear plastic kits.
Yeah, they do. Plastics is button in there. They look incredible.
I don't know.
I'm sorry if that's going to take you down another expensive rabbit hole, but yeah, they are cool. Larkin and Mark are still around. They'll probably tell you which.
Clear plastic kits. Are they supposed to be like stealth units or something,
Or to do side
Sorry,
where the pilot's sitting, you skeleton of the
Oh, okay.
skull. Yeah,
You get to see the stuff on the interior.
but because it's clear plastic, it's got that risk of you stuffing it. I think you have to be really precise. Not the easy, from what I've heard, to have them look as good as they are in the box.
Maybe eventually. I don't know. I'm an orc player. Intricacy and building of kits isn't really my forte. You know. I'm sure there's
orc version of it.
Yeah, kit bashed and armor plated. I mean, you know, that'll be the plan eventually with BattleTech is like pirate Frankenstein units that are piloted by orcs.
So much.
I would like to see a BattleTech 40k crossover campaign.
BattleTech versus
oh yeah,
knights or
no,
Titans.
orcs. Get out of here. Get out of here with your Titans. Come on. I mean, you can do that yourself, but it'd be orcs.
What's the orc titan? The Stomper or something, or is that their knight version?
I suppose it's their knight version at this point. That's the smallest of them. There's like Stompers, Gargants, Mech Gargants, Greater Gargants, Mega Gargants. There's loads of them that they didn't touch on. I was very surprised that they didn't do Orky Titan releases when they did the Adeptus Titanicus. It would have been like, you know, orcs are the, you know, de facto enemies of the Imperium. You know, what with us being the first foes in Rogue Trader Battle Report, orcs against the Crimson Fists. You know what I mean? Battle at the farm.
What's the one in Hell's Reach? Is that a Mega Gargant? Have you read Hell's Reach?
Oh yeah, I've seen the movie of it. Yeah. I think that's either a Mega Gargant or the Greater Gargant. You can never. Yeah, no, I think that would have been a Mega Gargant because it was up against a Imperator Titan, wasn't it? Yeah, the size
was. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been sort of Mega Gargant-ish size. It's basically like a moving apartment block with a load of bleeding guns sticking out of it. Is basically what it is.
I remember reading one of the books. I can't remember which one it was, but it was. I think it was an Inquisitor or an Interrogator or something hiding in an apartment block, and a Mega Gargant just walks through the apartment block, and they see sort of its hip joint sort of drift past them amongst the rubble. It doesn't even slow down; it just walks through the building.
Yeah, the habit blocks. Yeah. Well, I do like if you get the chance to, and it's coming out on Steam. MechWarrior 5. So one of the games in the MechWarrior series. It's released on the 27th of this month, I believe, on Steam, and it's a really fun game. But there's that's one aspect of the game they did really well is when you're in your mech, just smashing through enemy bases, and you can literally walk through them or, you know, shoot them, and you know you're literally walking through a building as it's collapsing in and around you. You know what I mean? And it's really cool. So if you ever get the chance to give it a bash, I would advise.
You not love that?
Exactly. It's like mech stompy robots. It's awesome. Never mind the combat, but I probably will be doing a couple of videos on that on the channel once it's released in Steam. I have played it on the Epic store, but I will be buying myself a copy. There is our salmony pink. Looks a lot redder in my camera than it is in reality. Trust me, it's not. It's more of a salmon pink style. That is our salmon pink Char. It looks alright. It looks alright.
Legs are gonna hold.
Yeah, it's holding. I'm surprisingly, like literally, the legs. It's like two pegs that connect together, that are holding the limbs and the legs in this. It's a bit skew whiff, but it seems to do the part. You know what I mean? So. Yeah. That's tonight's builds. This is what I got done.
I am still finishing off this wyvern. I've got into a kind of a bit of a log jam here with this bit of this gun because it's actually glue, just not holding
Ah,
plastic cement, so that's just down a bit, but we'll
ah.
be fine.
You need to get yourself. Have you got any zip kicker or insta set if you're using super glue? They're always like super useful. I got this out of Hobby Mad. I know that's another place you frequent yourself as well. This insta set.
Yeah, great store.
It's
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a can of that. It scares me because it makes the vapor, it like aerosols it
oh
around
yeah.
you.
I mean, it's for something that's terrible for your health. It smells amazing, but it's like probably carcinogenic or something. It's not something you're supposed to enjoy the smell of. It's like, death. Okay.
I remember Luke from gaming. He used it, but he was spraying it all day, really close to the miniatures. These big red eyes like this, just got a massive rash from it.
Oh,
That stuff is easily dangerous.
I'd
Gotta give it
say so.
good
My God.
space.
Like when I use it, I don't even use the spray bottle. Like so, there's it's in a spray and it's like it's got a pump. But I don't even do that. What I do is I unscrew it and I use the wick of it to literally dab a little bit. So I don't even like spraying it. I just dab a little tiny bit and I control it a bit more, and then I can use it because yeah, it does. I think if you are a bit too liberal with it, it does weird stuff to plastic. So
And your mind.
and your reality, yeah, it does a bit of mind warping and miniature melting, which is never the best.
One thing I did pick up yesterday as well was the resin from Graph World with their little torch. So I'll let you know how I get on with that as well.
Oh yeah, I've seen quite a few people mucking around with
Yeah, I think it's
the
good for like
resins.
dual effects and stuff like that. So if you had like orcs with a bit of slabber coming out of them, rather than using glue, which is always hard to work with, you could just like dribble a little bit of the resin, hit it with the U in midair, and it'll stay pretty good.
I've seen people do some really cool effects where they'll get that UV stuff on a balloon and they'll layer on a bit or they'll dribble it on a bit, yeah. Cure it,
Wow.
pop the balloon, and then you'll have it as like a shield effect. So if there's like a shield on something, you can have it so that
Cool.
it's so that and they've done stuff with masking, so they'll mask in hexes or whatever, so it'll look like this sort of hexagonal shield that's being hit. So there's loads of things, and
Yeah.
people come out with crazy ideas that I wouldn't even think of myself. Like I really
Yeah,
wouldn't.
it's even good for like puddles on bases and things like that. It's a very easy effect. It's just like dribble a little bit into a hollow on your base, hit it with a UV light, and bang! It looks like there's a
And she
really
sorted.
puddle there. Yeah, I think the drool effects are pretty good. You can use for any type of like flowing liquid as well. Like if you like you've seen the bases which have sort of a see-through resin section, you see the stuff underwater in them.
Oh, like fish and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like a shopping trolley or something like that. And you can do that with the UV resin. You just have to do it in small layers and build it up. Very cool.
Yeah, I've seen some really nice effects with different miniatures or people doing busts or they're doing they're making like I think there was someone who did like a Supergirl one where they did that. They built the beach up with sand, and then they did something with the resin sort of like that where she's sort of in high heels coming out of the beach or something like that. But you could see a bit of the water and the sand transition, and then using some of the Vallejo water effects on the top for like some of the water lapping and things like that. Yeah. There's really cool like people doing stuff with scale model ships and stuff like that. There's some really nice effects that people pull off, and even with clump foliage and stuff like that. There's a lot of effects that you can deal with stuff like smoke effects or flame or you know what I mean. There's a lot of different things you can mess around with. There's a lot of variation.
I think there's a lot of products now which really help. Like you say, the Vallejo effects, the AK interactive stuff, green stuff. They just are, they're so descriptive. Like this is European wet mud, or this is
Yeah, dark. Yeah.
Mediterranean.
So
Yeah.
I swear by this Vallejo art texture acrylic stuff, this dark art. I swear by it for BattleTech because it's got such a fine grain to it.
Right.
You can buy it so that it's white, so that if you wanted to do mud or whatever, you can do it yourself, and it's
Sure.
rough white pumice. And you can also get it where it's smooth. As you can tell, I went to buy the rough one and ended up buying the smooth one instead. So I ended up with two bottles. But you can use this stuff is actually pretty much what they have in their little tubes that they have, and they call it plastic putty, but it's really it's the same kind of stuff. It's what is it? It's marble, I think it is. Is it marble paste or something? Yeah, water based marble
paste.
marble dust. Yeah, so it's water based marble dust that's in some form of acrylic, and it dries, but it's really good. I've used this on filling gaps on like one of my mech guns. There was a really bad seam down the middle and in the wheels, and it's literally like you put it on with a brush, while it's still kind of wet, you can wipe away the excess with a paintbrush, an old paintbrush you use, maybe whatever brush you use for your PVA basin or whatever, and then if you really want it, you can just get the back of a knife and scrape the excess off, and it's so handy. Like it really is.
There's little shrinkage, or is it?
No, I found not much on the shrinkage department at all. Like I found it was pretty good. I did a bit here on the front of this Tiger tank, where the upper and lower glacis, whatever way I'd put it together, or the kit, I'm not too sure. There was a bit of a gap, but I filled it with that, and I literally just got the wet brush and I wiped away the excess of it, and then this has dried the way it is, and like I had no issues with shrinkage or anything like that. So it's,
that's cool.
Did the part for me. You know what I mean? I'm happy enough with the end result.
I know the liquid green stuff suffers a bit for.
I only dabbled with that.
Comes out of it.
Yeah, I only dabbled with that once or twice, and I wasn't too impressed. This is different. It's very smooth when it comes out. It's almost kind of like an easy spread butter kind of consistency. That sort of, and you could that's the best way to describe it. It's kind of like an easy spread butter, and you literally just put your brush into it, and you go to town with it. There's not any grit to it. It's just it's not bad at all. I like it. I'd use it. I would advise anyone to use it. It's pretty good. I reckon it'd be good for the likes of this guy. If I'm gonna paint him up, which I reckon I'm gonna have to, like gluing him together and clamping him, and then I'll scrape back those and then paint in the plastic putty or apply it even with the nozzle, and then sort of scrape the excess away, and it'll work. I reckon it'll work pretty well. I have no idea what colour I want to do. I might do this guy a crazy colour. Do him like something off instead of red. Do him, I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Maybe something a bit
salmon
mad.
Pink.
We'll try and get over the salmon pink. But his feet don't even flex. No. No flexing feet. This is I suppose for a tenner. It's not too bad. Gets what you pays for, I suppose. But yeah, I much prefer high grade. I think it'll be high grade or bust from now on. Is the path I will be taking. I'm gonna try.
I'll let you know how we get on with the real grade as well. The farming one, just if that's just a frustrating experience or something.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I haven't dabbled with them myself yet. So
one of the ones I got has a few of those like plastic, like blast effects or impact effects on them. So those are interesting.
I've seen them. I've seen where there seems to be like explosion kits you can buy, and like laser effects and those type of things. And I know you can buy weapons and weapon stands separately. So there's loads of little bits and pieces and gubbins that you can buy. There's loads of it really ties into that sort of action figure-y accessory pack vibe, if you get me. And
completely. And I think you can buy them for the specific. Like if you go onto the I think where I saw them was on hobbyfrontline.com, where they had, like, if you have this kit in 100 scale, this is the late effect back for. That's kind of.
Yeah, have specific effects and decals as well. I think they'll have specific decals where it's like, oh, here's decals for this guy, because some of them come with stickers instead of decals. But I don't know the intricacies of the grades yet to know which ones come with stickers, which ones come with decals, and so forth. But
That high grade one I got came with stickers, and they felt very much like the old Transformer stickers that came oil effect ones, but they were grand. They went on each. Some of them you need to apply them with a.
Jesus, we've won rail over. It's nearly 12 o'clock, Nick. Have you managed to get your wyvern built?
I'm most of the way there. Yeah,
Is
everything is just drying at the minute, so.
And I've managed to get me Zaku's built, and I've started to throw a bit of extra paint on these strikers for BattleTech.
Very cool.
Me little camphor, me Mountbatten pink share. I hope everyone got a bit of hobby done themselves since we've run into nearly 3 hours. The madness, I love it. And what are the lads saying?
Really struggled there,
We'll have
struggled to fill the time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Always the case when you're on, Nick, isn't it? I'll go through the comments section and then we'll wrap it up, folks.
Cool.
Mark was saying that hip snap is on par with the old Action Force figures. He's talking about the this Zaku. The connectors for this are not impressive. I wouldn't want to be flexing it too much. Mark was also saying the closest you get in BattleTech to Orcs is the Shadowrun crossover they did for April Fools. Yeah, I suppose you might custom rules for their troops, but I could envision Orcs just like their technology not working in a BattleTech universe, and then they just like loot BattleTech tech and just use BattleTech rules. I could envision that. Sci-fi saying he's an Orc player, but he does blood axes people. Very tenacious. It's true. There's a Mac Gargant whose super villain identity is the Scorpion. This is back when we were talking about Gargants and Titanicus. Sci-fi saying the orphanage was shady on that raid mission, Scar. Oh, that's true. Yeah, we may have. We may have. Our legal department, for our last MechWarrior 5 campaign, denies any, accounts of orphanages being run over by our mercenary unit. There's no such proof. Sadly, all the gun cam footage disappeared from said operations due to electrical fault. Oh.
Up again.
Sci-fi saying the news coverage on those Twitch streams was fun. It was, and you wrote them all down. We need to get them off you. It was hilarious. Weird Boys popped in. What's the story, bud? Lockeran is saying that guy Lincoln Ryder I was telling you about literally just did a video about filling gaps with that sort of putty. See, great minds think alike. Solvent's gone off. Good night, bud. Sci-fi saying he can finally take his dog out. Let's see some orcs, says Marcos. Orc stuff saying managed to get some paint done. Nice. Marcus wants to see some orcs. That's the latest conversion I've been doing, which is a runtard. And I've been sculpting some green stuff on the top part of the head. I've redone the face. I got rid of the arms. And I want to give him a jaw plate, sort of. So you can see where the bottom part isn't sculpted yet. So I'm messing around with that. That's the latest bit of orky stuff I'm doing. But I've mostly been painting.
Don't have any orcs to hand.
Well, you don't have orcs to hand. I was about to say, I always
my
have
old
orcs
playlist.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you check my playlist, you'll see me converting an 8x8 American multi sort of purpose truck into a free pirate. So that was.
Yeah, you had some fun with those scale models. They looked like good crack, alright. Very jealous I was. I was like, look at him, the bastard.
Recommend it to anyone. Like, so much. Best thing.
Your audio's breaking up again, but we're near the end. Look, it's your internet provider. We'll have to have words with them. I suppose that's the price you pay for living in the sticks. It's like you get all the free and clean air, and I'm slowly poisoned by lead, but at least I get good internet, you know. As is the way of things. We'll have you on again, Nick. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. For anyone who's watching, you'll find a link in the description for Nick's channel, Grayprimer. So if you're not already subscribed, I would highly suggest you do so. I watch his content myself. Really good stuff. He does a lot of coverage of Warhammer stuff and dabbles in Gundam, and he's not just into one faction. He does a lot of the factions, a lot of bits and pieces, some scale model conversions. He's yeah, you wear many hats when it comes to the hobby, Nick. I'll give you that much. Fair play to you, like.
Thank you so much. You're very kind. Yeah, I'll be doing a lot more conversions in the future because I think that's where I find my real niche for what gives me the most back from the hobby. It's just trying to visualize what a vehicle could become rather than what it is with the
potential. Yeah, I'll be looking forward to more projects, man. I really want. And
yeah, more coming.
We'll get you on again soon. You know what I mean? So
thanks for having me.
It's been great fun. So it's good boy from Skarnir saying don't forget to drill your barrels.
Goodbye from Nick saying to drill your barrels, even if they're tiny Tau ones.
We need to get an outro. I'm surprised you don't have one already. We'll get you one. We'll get you one going. We'll see you again, folks. Take it easy. Good night.
Much.